A woman with long white hair walks a solemn path down a red carpet toward the thrones. Whispers fill the hall as onlookers note the mad princess has arrived to marry a barbarian. The white-haired woman shows a look of quiet, determined resolve. As she leans on a dark-haired man, the crowd's cruel whispers suggest she will soon beg to return home. She scoffs internally at their ignorance, knowing she would never have come this far only to give up. Chloe is asked if she consents to marry Marquis Rodrian of Ronheim, a man feared as the barbarian of the north. With cold resolve, Chloe vows to take root in Ronheim and flourish like a poisonous flower in a barren land. "Yes, I consent," she declares, her mind on those she once loved, who betrayed and killed her. Her past flashes before her eyes when she was Chloe Idelian, a princess of the Oriental Empire. She recalls her brother and his mother, her stepmother Kavala, whose presence made her fate inevitable. The law of the land was clear. The emperor could have multiple wives, complicating the line of succession. Born only after the empress's repeated miscarriages, Chloe's very existence made her an obstacle to them. After her mother's death at age 7, a desperate Chloe was silenced and forced to trust the only one who reached out. A young man with light brown hair embraces the crying child, offering comfort in her grief. Her brother became her reason to live, but his words were a web, feigning concern while manipulating her and finding her a fine marriage match. Overwhelmed by the memory of his deceit, she collapses into despair. His voice haunts her, insisting his manipulations were always for her own good and part of her duty. In the eyes of others, she was nothing, and she remembers her mother's voice asking how they viewed her. They saw her as mad, just like the Empress had been. Following the Empress's suicide, she was sold like merchandise into marriage with a man 20 years her senior. At the altar, she recalls her brother's promise that this arranged marriage would save her and make everything right. After 10 years of a nightmare marriage, she finally escaped to seek help from her brother Andrea, only for him to coldly dismiss her. Stunned by his cruelty, she can only whisper, "Brother?" He callously complains that he is too busy to be troubled by her, leaving her confused and desperate. His true intentions are revealed as he looms over her and commands, "For my sake, quietly die." A cruel smile spreads across Andrea's face as he tells her she won't survive, no matter what she does. As tears stream down her face, he twists the knife, saying her death would finally make everyone happy. Heartbroken, Chloe asks why he's saying this, but Andrea, sword in hand, coldly questions if she even understands her crime. When she desperately offers to fix whatever she did wrong, he scoffs that a fool like her could never fix it. He cruelly remarks that her expression is just like the day her mother died, before revealing that he and his mother drove her to madness. With a glowing sword in hand, he declares there is no longer any reason to keep her alive. As he swings the sword, he sneers that it's a relief an idiot like her will never become emperor. A sudden slash rings out, as the shocking betrayal from Andrea becomes her final agonizing thought. With a sudden gasp, her eyes fly open in a sunlit room. She sits bolt upright in bed, utterly bewildered, knowing she was just killed by Andrea. Frantically, she clutches her chest, searching for the fatal wound but finds nothing, wondering if she miraculously survived. She considers if it was just a nightmare. But the memory of Andrea's sneering face is far too vivid. Lost in the phantom pain of her wound, her thoughts are broken by a maid entering her room, questioning why she's awake. The maid scolds her for not calling for assistance the moment she regained consciousness. The maid continues her tirade, asking if the marriage talk was so unbearable that she fainted during a meal. As the maid muses that the engagement is too grand for her, Chloe wonders in confusion what engagement she means. While the maid complains, Chloe realizes with a jolt that her palace, which was demolished years ago, is completely intact. The maid condescendingly remarks that a viscount is still a good match, questioning who else would dare marry the princess. Her eyes widen in shock as the pieces begin to fall into place. A dizzying possibility begins to dawn on her. She cautiously asks the maid if the marriage talks are about Viscount Pelsis. The maid confirms it is indeed the aging, unmarried Viscount Pelsis, and the truth hits Chloe with the force of a physical blow. It's confirmed, at the very moment of her death, time rewound. By some unknown miracle, she has been sent back 10 years into the past. Horrified, she wonders if she's doomed to repeat her wretched fate, but this time, she stands ready with a sword in hand. Clutching her bedsheets, Chloe resolves that she will never return to the hell of her past life. Knowing the future, she forces herself to think, realizing she has a method to change her fate. With newfound resolve, she decides she must first write a letter of apology to the Viscount. Closing her eyes, she steels herself, determined to use a certain person to escape the imperial family. The scene introduces the Prince of Ronheim, a defeated ruler now serving the empire as a governor. Realizing she needs an ally whose interests align with hers, Chloe's plan takes flight as a raven delivers a letter to the prince, who wonders about its contents. The dark-haired Marquis examines the scroll, noting that the sender's name is not written on it. Holding the mysterious letter, he worries that something might have happened while he was away. As he reads about a beautiful moon garden, he is shocked, wondering if information about his secret place has been leaked. The letter requests to see the lovely Reckness flowers blooming there, causing the Marquis to fall silent as his aide questions him. He clenches his fist around the letter, which cryptically hints at the sender's identity. The message concludes with an invitation to the Lovers' Day celebration at the Imperial Palace. Back in her room, Chloe sits on her bed, pondering who could have possibly written such a letter. The Marquis puts the scroll away, deciding the truth will be revealed soon enough. Turning his horse, he urgently orders his men to reorganize and ride for the capital at once. With a grimly determined expression, he thinks to himself that he looks forward to the meeting. A few days later, the scene shifts to the Grand Imperial Palace on the night of the Lovers' Festival. Looking at her reflection, Chloe, now in a formal gown, acknowledges that the day has finally arrived. She identifies Callias Rodrian as the man who is the key to her entire plan. Knowing the future gives her an edge, but she knows that as the Mad Princess, he is her only lifeline. Clenching her fists, she tells herself not to be scared, as there is still so much she must do. When fear threatens her, she recalls her final moments in her past life, remembering being beaten bloody by her barren husband. She remembers the cold winter wind as a man stood before her with a sword. Recalling her mother's death and the smiling faces of her betrayers, she vows revenge on them all. Standing in the grand ballroom, she reaffirms her resolve, determined not to be shaken by her surroundings. A guest gasps in the bustling ballroom, pointing out the arrival of Marquis Rodrian. Partygoers whisper about Callias, mocking his fierce reputation and questioning his presence after his kingdom's fall. The gossip continues as guests call him a shameless barbarian who still carries himself like a prince. A woman finds the rumors of his people being cannibals dreadful, wishing he would leave. Overhearing their insults, Callias scowls and challenges them to say it to his face. Letting out a frustrated sigh, he thinks that he never would have come if not for that letter. He glances toward the moonlit window, recalling that he couldn't ignore the mention of the moonlight garden and Reckness flowers. An explanation reveals that Rex's flowers turn golden under moonlight and are a symbol of gold in Ronheim. He knows there are no actual Reckness flowers in his garden, realizing the letter is a coded message. The flowers must refer to his top secret gold mine, a fact known only to his most trusted aides. Annoyed at the lack of clues and ready to leave, his attention is caught by guests spotting the Mad Princess Chloe. As Chloe walks past him, the guests whisper nervously, wondering if she will do something crazy. Chloe stops, her eyes widening in recognition as she thinks, "It's him!" She correctly identifies Callias Rodrian, pleased that he came after receiving her letter. Taking a steadying breath, she notes this is the first time they are properly facing each other. A flashback reveals her brother Andrea's relentless past life campaign to destroy Ronheim and the Marquis. She approaches Callias, determined to uncover why Andrea was so obsessed with him and forge an alliance. As she gets closer, Callias looks down with a questioning expression while she silently vows to defeat Andrea. Chloe puts on a brilliant smile and formally greets the Marquis, wishing him a good evening. The two stand opposite each other, the space between them charged with unspoken intentions. Momentarily stunned, Callias quickly composes himself, deciding there's no need to rush things. To confirm he understood her message, Chloe sweetly asks if she may have a flower from him. A nearby observer wonders if the princess understands the romantic implication of giving flowers on Lover's Day. Chloe smiles, knowing that even if he refuses, their interaction will be dismissed as a silly scandal between the Mad Princess and the barbarian. To her surprise, Callias offers her the yellow flower from his coat, signaling he understood her reference to the moonlight garden. With a gentle smile, Chloe holds the yellow flower Callias gave her, a silent acknowledgement of their shared secret. Realizing she must speak with the Marquis privately before Andrea learns of their meeting, Chloe notices the gossiping guests and decides to use her Mad Princess reputation to her advantage by intentionally tripping. Ouch. As Chloe stumbles into Callias, she thinks this will provide the perfect excuse to leave the party, since everyone already wants her gone. Feigning a pained expression, Chloe commits to her fall amidst a shower of flowers. Callias looks down as the cruel whispers of the crowd float by, with guests refusing to help her for fear of catching her madness. Seeing that she's being treated like an outcast and no one will help, Callias decides he has no choice but to intervene. To her surprise, Callias effortlessly lifts Chloe into his arms, carrying her away from the judgmental eyes of the partygoers. Onlookers gossip about the unexpected pairing, calling them the barbarian and the mad princess as he carries her off. Safely away from the hall, Chloe drops her act with a bright smile. But Callias coolly tells her she can stop pretending. He admits that while he initially doubted she sent the letter, her dramatic performance has now convinced him. Holding up her message, Callias confirms that he received her invitation. He calls the letter an interesting read, making Chloe wonder if he's figured out that she orchestrated their entire meeting. He smirks, noting he's glad she was able to catch on to his meaning so quickly. Chloe smiles serenely, formally acknowledging that she has been waiting for him, Marquis Rodrian. As they walk in the moonlit garden, he gets straight to the point, asking what she wants. She finds him even more intimidating up close. Locking eyes with him under the full moon, Chloe states her purpose: a deal. A moment of tense silence hangs between them, her resolve firm. Taking a breath, Chloe makes her bold proposition, asking the Marquis to marry her. She then adds a shocking condition to her marriage proposal. She wants his gold mine as a wedding gift. Callias lets out a disbelieving laugh, asking if she is being serious. He scoffs at her demands, but she confidently states she expected his reaction and asks if he's satisfied with just one gold mine, implying she offers more. Chloe reveals she knows his secrets, mentioning the dark side of the moon and flashing back to Andrea keeping her close, where she learned everything. Because her brother always kept her near, she explains, she was privy to many secrets others were not. As an example, she begins to reveal a critical truth about his gold mine. She drops a bombshell. His mine isn't producing gold, and she knows of his secret plan to sell it to Earl Elvern. Stunned, Callias demands to know how she could have such information, as she mentally notes his surprise. Chloe calmly states this is only a fraction of what she knows, determined to say something that will secure his interest. She warns him that selling the mine to the Earl would be a disastrous mistake, thinking she must frame marrying her as a better deal. With a grim prediction, she warns that his choice will lead to Ronheim being stained with blood once more. A narrative flashback reveals the future. Rodrian's sale of the mine to Elvern would lead to Elvern betraying him, giving the land to Andrea for a surprise attack on Ronheim. Chloe explains Earl Elvern's cunning plan to offer the land to Andrea as a military encampment, confirming she overheard it herself. She stresses the land's strategic value as Ronheim's only connection to the outside world, implying dire consequences if it falls into Andrea's hands. Callias begins to take her seriously, asking why the Earl would do such a thing. Chloe is relieved to see she has his attention. She explains the Earl seeks favor with Andrea, the future heir, who already views Callias as an obstacle. Callias expresses his disbelief that Andrea would plot to eliminate his own sister, the princess. With a cynical smile, Chloe dismisses the supposedly strong bond between the imperial siblings as nothing more than a rumor. Callias flinches slightly, her words clearly striking a nerve as he processes the dark implication. Having laid her cards on the table, Chloe asks if her information has proven her worth and made the idea of marrying her more appealing. He counters by asking why she's so desperate for this marriage, pointing out that she seems to gain nothing from it. Chloe simply looks up at the moon, her expression calm and enigmatic, holding her answer back. A maid's shout interrupts them, and Chloe realizes with annoyance that they're already searching for her. Running out of time, she tells Callias to meet her again tomorrow if he accepts her deal. With a final "I'll be waiting," she turns and leaves him to ponder her offer. Callias stands alone in the gardens, his thoughts interrupted as someone calls out to him. His aide, Alex, rushes over, but Callias sharply rebukes him for calling him prince, warning him of the danger from the Empire's spies. Alex apologizes, and Callias sternly tells him to be more careful in the future. While announcing their departure, Callias internally decides there's something important he must investigate based on Chloe's information. A brief memory shows a younger, happier Chloe in a simple white dress, holding a pink flower. The scene shifts to a grand estate at night, where Callias prepares to address his men. Drawing his sword, Callias confronts his trusted aides, demanding to know who leaked the secret of the Garden of the Moon. A reddish-haired knight declares their absolute loyalty to Ronheim, stating they would never reveal secrets to outsiders, especially imperial spies. Rodrian doubts his men spoke of the Garden of the Moon, and questions how Chloe could have possibly known about it. Resolved, Rodrian decides he will uncover the details of her mysterious knowledge once he is by her side. Seeing her expression, he realizes Chloe must have her own complex circumstances driving her actions. He smiles faintly, admitting his surprise that she didn't seem to recognize him at all. In a memory, Rodrian directly asks Chloe why she is so intent on acquiring the gold mine. She calmly replies that she wants it to create a flower garden, stating her simple fondness for them. The reddish-haired knight offers to investigate further, but Rodrian confidently dismisses the need for it. He reflects on her explanation, concluding that the princess simply remains fond of flowers, surrounded by an illusion of flowers. A gentle smile spreads across his face. The new day begins with the soft, rhythmic sound of a brush gliding through long white hair. As a maid brushes her hair, Chloe thinks to herself that she's done all she can. Now she just has to wait for him. A flicker of apprehension crosses her face as she waits. She recalls Rodrian's nature, knowing he would never allow anyone to harm the home and people he so dearly loves. Her thoughts turn to the real problem. Her brother Andrea, who she knows is on his way after hearing the news. Sighing in frustration, the maid scolds Chloe for fidgeting, demanding she hold still so she can finish her work and leave. After the maid complains about her leaving the banquet, Chloe instinctively apologizes, but immediately questions her own submissiveness, stealing her resolve to live for herself now. In a sudden move, Chloe rises from her seat, surprising the startled maid. The maid offers a strained smile and dismisses herself, offering to make an excuse to the other maids on Chloe's behalf. As the maid turns to leave, Chloe's eyes narrow in recognition. She remembers this girl was a spy sent by the Empress. She recalls her past, how after her mother died, all of her loyal childhood attendants were systematically driven away. They were all replaced by new servants, spies sent by the Empress to watch over her. When Chloe asks the maid to fetch someone for her walk, the maid scoffs that everyone is busy and tells her to sit still. Annoyed, the maid resumes her task, wondering what has caused Chloe's sudden change in demeanor. Just as Chloe congratulates herself on her progress, her brother Andrea storms in, furiously demanding to know why she left the banquet with Marquis Rodrian. He furiously questions if she's lost her mind, reminding her she is on the verge of an engagement. Staring back at him coldly, she thinks his name, no longer seeing him as family but as the man who was once her brother. While she reflects on how terrified she used to be of him, Andrea continues his rant, yelling that her actions have made him too embarrassed to face anyone. Watching him, flushed and unable to control his emotions as he spews his harsh words, a certainty settles within her. With a newfound sense of calm and a faint smile, she realizes with utter clarity that she is no longer afraid of him. The intense confrontation gives way to a brief, illustrative pause. Andrea scoffs at her calm composure, mockingly asking if now is really the time for a polite greeting. Andrea continues his tirade, calling her a fool and questioning her reckless behavior, while Chloe reflects on how she used to believe his words were born from genuine concern. She silently scoffs at the ridiculousness of her past naivety as Andrea begins his manipulation, asking if her illness has worsened. He insidiously brings up her mother's memory to undermine her, a cruel tactic she now recognizes he always uses to belittle her. Steeling herself against his provocations, Chloe clenches her fist and offers a simple excuse, explaining she just didn't want to attend the ball alone. She adopts a posture of fragile vulnerability, playing her part in the unfolding confrontation. Feigning acceptance, Andrea's expression shifts into a smirk as he tells her she won't have to worry about attending banquets anymore. As he declares she's his top priority, Chloe notes his convincing lies. He then states his plan to have her married and removed from the palace soon. He wishes her a comfortable life until her marriage, but his inner thoughts betray his true intention, a simmering fury that Marquis Rodrian dared to tarnish her name. She understands his unspoken command to remain silent until she marries the Viscount, as he reassures her he has already smoothed things over with Viscount Pelsis. As Andrea leans in, calling the situation a shame, Chloe internally laments that her plan failed. She had hoped the incident would cause the Viscount to break the engagement. He whispers, continuing his manipulation by insisting that everything he does is out of genuine concern for her. Filled with disgust, Chloe listens to his false promises just as an attendant bursts into the room, shouting for the prince. An attendant stands in the doorway as Andrea demands to know what's wrong. Chloe, still on the floor, realizes with a jolt that Marquis Rodrian has arrived. The attendant formally announces that Marquis Rodrian is requesting an audience, leaving both Chloe and a stunned Andrea to wonder why he is here. A memory flashes of her conversation with Rodrian, recalling his instruction to seek him out the next day if she still wished to accept his deal. Just as she recalls their conversation, the Marquis himself makes a grand and timely entrance. Marquis Rodrian formally greets them both, prompting a surprised Andrea to demand why he has come without any prior notice. With a dismissive smile, Andrea suggests the Marquis should leave and return another day, much to Chloe's visible annoyance. Chloe worries that Andrea will send the Marquis away, determined not to let him ruin the opportunity she fought for. Feigning a smile, Chloe tells her brother she invited Marquis Rodrian herself to thank him for his help at the ball. She then turns to Callias and pointedly asks for his confirmation, putting him on the spot. Playing along, Callias closes his eyes with a polite smile and agrees with what Her Highness said. Andrea addresses Callias, acknowledging that his sister caused trouble at the last ball. With a dismissive smile, Andrea says it can't be helped and decides to excuse himself. Before leaving, Andrea gives a chilling warning, stating his preference that they not meet privately again as his sister is engaged. After Andrea's departure, Chloe and Callias are left standing alone in the grand room. Chloe apologizes to the Marquis, inwardly relieved that Andrea backed down and she didn't lose her chance to speak with him. Callias looks at her, his expression neutral as he takes in the situation. The two walk together along a sunlit garden path, away from the palace. Glancing back at two distant maids, Chloe feels confident that no one can overhear them now. Startled, she realizes Callias has moved silently and is now standing right behind her, finding his intense gaze unnerving. Chloe smiles sweetly and asks if his presence means he has accepted her proposal. To her utter shock, Callias confirms that he believes the marriage will benefit him as well. He looks down at her, stating that he'd now like to hear her plan. Chloe explains that her first step must be to resolve her current engagement with Viscount Pelsis, a fact Andrea had hinted at. Callias immediately tells her not to trouble herself, his swift response catching her completely off guard. Stunned into silence by his unexpected declaration, Chloe simply stares at him. Her eyes widen as she tries to process his words. Callias maintains a serious, unreadable expression as he looks back at her. He then asks a serious question. Can she endure the harsh life that would follow such a decision? Chloe calmly replies that just as people have whispered about him, they will surely gossip about her as well. Callias listens intently, his gaze fixed on her. Clenching her fist, Chloe tells herself to get a grip, cynically thinking his concern is only to prevent future trouble, and that it's pathetic she still wants to believe in kindness. Surrounded by an illusion of blue roses, she declares she'd leave for Ronheim this very moment if she could. Responding to her conviction, Callias gently takes her hand and brings it to his lips, leaving her momentarily speechless. Meanwhile, a furious Andrea storms down a hallway, enraged that Chloe defied him by meeting with Callias. When his guards try to stop him, he shoves them aside and bellows for them to get out of his way. Crash! He violently throws open a set of large doors. A woman with brown hair calmly chides Andrea for his disgraceful behavior from a darkened room where a man lies slumped over a table. Andrea complains to his mother about Chloe, calling her a stupid girl. His mother warns him to lower his voice, noting that too many people are listening. She asks why he disturbed her, and he explains that Chloe is acting strangely. A sly smile crosses the woman's face as she asks for confirmation. Andrea voices his concern that Viscount Pelsis will call off their useful engagement, which prompts a sinister smile from his mother. With a clatter, a carriage moves through the night as the woman reassures Andrea not to worry. She smirks, revealing she has the perfect solution as a dark-haired man with yellow eyes appears beside her. A flashback recounts Chloe's marriage proposal and her demand for the gold mine, revealing she was the author of the letter. In his study, Callias reflects on the astonishing fact that Chloe knew about the gold mine in the first place. He recalls her even more stunning revelation, that she knew the mine wasn't producing gold, and of his plan to sell it to Count Elburn. Musing over the many questions he has, Callias determines that one thing is clear. The narration concludes that right now, Chloe is more desperate than anyone to leave for Ronheim. A memory shows a younger, radiant Chloe in a beautiful dress, smiling as she holds a yellow flower. Another brief memory shows a younger, happy Chloe in a simple white dress, holding a pink flower. Callias recalls meeting her 12 years ago, when Ronheim was invaded and burning, showing a man in a white cloak comforting a small, dark-haired child. The man embraces the crying child, tightly amidst the devastation. A younger Callias vows to kill the unidentified invaders, while the narration explains the Empress of Arental was a suspected party. The story continues, explaining that he infiltrated the imperial palace for revenge, but grew exhausted and hopeless. It was then that he met a young, innocent-looking Chloe. A title card framed by flowers declares, "I met her." In a grand hall, a young, dark-haired boy is startled by a white-haired girl, thinking he's been caught somewhere he shouldn't be. Deciding she looks innocent, he quickly makes up a story, telling the young girl he simply got lost from his parents. When she easily offers to help, he grows suspicious, wondering if it's a trap to turn him over to the guards. As she leads him through the palace, he looks for a chance to escape, while she innocently comments on his beautiful appearance. Hearing his stomach rumble, the girl kindly offers him strawberry-flavored candy, leaving him flustered and embarrassed. The young, white-haired girl turns to him with a radiant and innocent smile. In a fond memory, he recalls her bright blue eyes and gentle expression from that moment. Feeling his composure slipping, he begins to introduce himself as Cal, but stops short, confusing the girl. He quickly covers his slip, confirming his name is Cal, while internally scolding himself for almost revealing his real name. The memory darkens as he recalls finally confronting Kavala, the object of his resentment, and finding himself unable to act. He remembers his fear, knowing he only had to attack the woman from behind, but was paralyzed by the thought of failure and death. Just as he raises a dagger to strike, a ghostly image of the young girl appears, holding him back and pleading for Cal to stop. As Kavala and her cloaked companion walk away, the vision of the girl fades, with the companion questioning if he heard a voice. The girl's voice echoes in his mind, warning him that using his weapon would only get him caught by the guards. She tearfully begs him to stop, not wanting to lose her first friend, and offers to help find his parents, causing him to weep. Surrounded by ethereal flowers, she insists he must survive for the future, thwarting his revenge with her sincere concern. He recalls having no choice but to listen, fearing his own death would erase his brother's existence, and calls himself a coward as she takes his hand. On the day they parted outside the palace, they promised to meet again when they were adults. He remembers giving her a single pink flower, a symbol of their promise to both survive until they could reunite. In a treasured memory, the two children stand together, holding hands with the flower between them, sealing their vow. Years later, the boy, now a man named Callius, worries about false rumors that Chloe has gone mad and that her enemies plan to kill her. Resolved, he declares that he owes Chloe his life and must first rescue her before he can finally complete his revenge against Kavala. A knock sounds at his door as an attendant announces himself, and Callius grants him entry. An aide in a formal military uniform steps into the Marquis's office. Callius stands by his desk and asks his aide for a status report on the tasks he assigned. His aide, Viscount Cliff, reports that Marquis Rodrian is now known to possess the key to the relic. Pleased with the progress, Callius tells his aide they just need a little more effort. Callius internally worries that the widespread rumor about the relic will make it harder to retrieve, as everyone will now be searching for it. He knows that his enemy, Kavala, will not remain idle after hearing the rumor, recalling how she extorted the relic but lacks the key to use it. He dismisses the risk to his aide, stating that adding a few more exaggerated rumors won't change the overall situation. Viscount Cliff listens to his Marquis with a look of deep concern, remaining silent. Callius addresses Cliff as an old friend, stating that he feels he must speak his mind on the matter. Cliff passionately argues back, questioning how it won't change anything, and warning that Callius will be used as bait and put in grave danger. Pleading, Cliff begs his friend not to do anything reckless, expressing his fear of losing him too. Callius smiles faintly, explaining that he can finally be bold now that he's moving beyond mere circumstantial evidence. He reveals his strategy. The operation will force Kavala to make a move, confirming whether or not she truly possesses the relic. He reassures his worried friend that the Empress can't harm him until she discovers the true identity of the key. Instead of a direct attack, he predicts she will try to plant a spy to get closer to him. The scene shifts to a rainy night at an inn, where someone calls out to a rookie. A cloaked blonde man quizzes a new recruit about the Sanctus's relic, while wondering if the nearby men are Ronheim knights. Leaning in, the man reveals that a key is required to awaken the relic, and only one person in the world knows its identity. He dramatically declares that the sole keeper of this secret is their own Marquis Rodrian. The rookie expresses admiration for the Marquis, noting he is the Sanctus's son, as the cloaked man prepares to leave. The downpour continues outside, setting a grim and secretive mood. The cloaked man whispers his information to Kavala, confirming that Marquis Rodrian is the key. A cruel smirk spreads across Kavala's face as she confirms the rumor is true and vows to seize the key from him. Laughing under a blood-red moon, she speaks the name of her target, Callius Rodrian. Gazing at a grand mansion, She declares her resolve to obtain the key, even if it means she has to kill him. A young woman with long white hair awakens in a luxurious bed, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Lying back down with a hand to her forehead, she thinks with a sigh that she couldn't sleep again today. Sitting up in her grand bedroom, she reflects that she hasn't slept properly since she regressed. A wave of anguish washes over her as she covers her mouth, lost in a painful memory. She recalls her dying moments rushing back whenever she closes her eyes, pulling her into a pitch-black abyss, but knows something else is even more terrifying. The memory reveals the true terror, the sight of her brother and a dark-haired woman in a red dress, both smiling cruelly. Haunted by their betrayal, she wonders why she was so foolish and never suspected them. As her reflection shatters like broken glass, she blames herself for everything that happened. She remembers that in her moments of despair, a saving voice always calls her name, Chloe. A memory surfaces of her old friend, a young, dark-haired boy with a body that doesn't grow. He appears in a warm, golden light, smiling kindly at her. Wah! In her memory, she rushes forward and embraces him tightly. Back in the present, Chloe waits anxiously, wondering why he hasn't arrived yet, as his voice echoes in her mind. The dark-haired boy, Cal, suddenly appears, acknowledging the situation is sudden as Chloe tells him he will be surprised to meet someone who looks a lot like him. Chloe reassures a worried Cal that the marriage is her own choice and he needn't worry, thinking that their short, secret meetings are enough. She sadly clenches her hands, lamenting that they will be apart, and that in her past life she could at least see him occasionally. Cal gently comforts her, stroking her hair as she looks down with a troubled expression. Blushing, she looks up at him with affection and whispers his name. He gently notes that she still has a worried expression on her face. Waving a hand dismissively, he admits he's worried about his own future, while she internally chides herself for being foolish, even in her second life. She lets out a small, knowing laugh at his attempt to cheer her up. They sit together on the edge of her bed, sharing a quiet and intimate moment. Cal looks at her with earnest conviction, assuring her he knows her best and that none of the bad things that happened were her fault. He encourages her, promising she'll do better than she thinks, which moves her to tears as she whispers his name. She embraces him tightly, resolving to believe in Cal, who has always been there for her. In a tender moment, they hold hands and touch foreheads, united in their purpose. The scene shifts to a magnificent estate as unseen onlookers gossip that Chloe must be on cloud 9 about her impending marriage. As Chloe walks down a hallway, 2 maids whisper behind her. She reflects that while her past self would have been intimidated, she can now stand up to them. Hearing them mock the Viscount for forgiving his fiance's meeting with a barbarian, she steels herself, deciding to endure it to lower Andrea's guard. The maids continue their gossip, mocking the childish letters sent by the barbarian, and noting how smitten the Viscount is with the princess. Chloe confronts the gossiping maids, demanding to know what letter they are talking about and asking if Marquise Rodrian sent it. A maid explains that because they didn't know the letter's contents, they sent it directly to the prince, making Chloe realize Andrea has been monitoring her. With a sudden shove, the maid is pushed aside as Andrea's furious voice roars Chloe's name from off-screen. Andrea storms in, snatching the letter from the maid and declaring that Marquise Rodrian is an incredibly rude bastard he couldn't ignore. The letter is revealed to be a passionate confession, calling their meeting at the palace party a beautiful and fated encounter. A silhouette of a man, presumably the Marquis, is seen writing the letter, recalling how meeting Chloe's gaze set his very soul ablaze. As Chloe reads the letter, a flustered Andrea demands to know what the Marquis was thinking, calling the letter vulgar and improper for an engaged woman. Andrea declares he can no longer tolerate Rodrian's treatment of his sister, while a maid notes the contrast between the simple flowers and the Viscount's lavish jewels. Chloe reflects that in her past life, she would have cowered in shame at Andrea's words. She remembers how she used to fret over bringing shame to the family, but realizes things are different now. A memory of Cal's voice cuts through her thoughts, reassuring her that none of this is her fault. Playing her part, Chloe looks distraught as Andrea comforts her, telling her not to cry or blame herself. Feigning agreement, Chloe tells her brother he's right, pleasing him as she internally resolves to get rid of such insignificant things. Chloe turns to the maid and asks if the flowers were also sent by the Marquis. The maid nervously confirms they were. Declaring it's right for her to dispose of them, Chloe snatches the vase from the maid, who lets out a sharp cry of alarm. Crash! As the vase shatters, the maid cries out a warning, and a panicked Andrea reaches for his sister. Standing amidst the wreckage with a serene smile, Chloe offers a chillingly calm apology, claiming her hand slipped. Andrea reels in shock, noticing blood on Chloe's face, and frantically orders the maids to treat her injuries. As the shattered vase and flowers lie in a puddle on the floor, Chloe stares ahead, thinking she will never let Andrea's words hurt her again. The scene cuts to a lavish room where Kavala, the dark-haired woman from Chloe's memory, sits alone on a sofa, quietly sipping tea. HMPH. Andrea's mother, Kavala, reflects that her son has been coming to her to whine more and more lately. Andrea bursts in, worried that something must have happened to Chloe, exclaiming she's become a completely different person, but his mother calmly decides they'll find out soon enough. Tap tap from behind an ornate door, a voice grants permission to enter. A worried-looking Chloe, wearing a simple pink and white dress, announces her arrival, having been summoned by name. Her mother, Kavala, greets her with a smile, stating she needs Chloe to do something important. Kavala reveals that Marquis Rodrian has sent a marriage proposal and orders Chloe to follow him to Ronheim, leaving the girl stunned and suspicious of her mother's true motive. Chloe asks if she is to marry the Marquis, but Kavala dismisses her concerns, explaining she's not being sent away forever, but is merely going as a watchdog to symbolize peace. Kavala asserts that Ronheim only lives well as a vassal state, but reveals she's heard they've been preparing for war without the Empire's knowledge. She concludes that Chloe will marry into Ronheim as a symbol of peace and monitor the Marquis to prevent further trouble. Chloe stands silently, clutching her dress as she takes in the shocking order. Inwardly thrilled they're sending her away just as she wanted to break her engagement, Chloe feigns reluctance but agrees to do her best for her mother. Kavala offers false gratitude and comfort to a seemingly distraught Chloe. As Kavala embraces her, promising to bring her back soon, Chloe realizes with chilling clarity that even a warm touch like this can be a lie. Chloe reflects that if she hadn't returned to the past, she never would have suspected the woman she called mother, Kavala. A memory of a younger, happier Chloe in a white dress flashes by. Determined, Chloe thinks to herself that this time, Kavala will be the one trapped by her own scheme. Elsewhere, a cloaked man asks Kavala if she's truly sending the princess to Ronheim, and she confirms it's the best way to plant someone on his side. The cloaked man questions if the princess will act according to their will, but Kavala confidently dismisses Chloe as a fool who will only tremble in fear, adding that she'll assign her own agent to her. The cloaked figure then recalls that the princess seemed to be asking for a favor, and Kavala confirms this with a knowing smile. She reveals Chloe's request for a merchant guild and land as a wedding gift, specifically the useless, barren land the former empress owned, which Kavala deems hardly a waste. As Chloe looks out her window into the night, Kavala muses that a useless child has her purpose, coolly predicting that the princess will just freeze to death on that barren land anyway. A narrator explains that after the audience with Kavala, the marriage discussions with Lord Rodrian advanced rapidly. Despite opposition from Viscount Pelsis and Andrea, their protests were short-lived since the arrangement was backed by the imperial consort, Kavala. The scene focuses on a pair of elegant, jewel-adorned shoes. As maids help Chloe dress for the ceremony, she overhears their cruel gossip about her shamelessness, but she internally realizes this very ceremony proves she has successfully altered the future. Chloe opens a window to look out at the barren, wintry landscape of the Rosendahl territory, now hers, thanks to Kavala's scheming. She resolves that once she reaches Ronheim, she'll contact a certain person, noting that she can't lower her guard, even though she's shaken off Andrea's grasp for now. In a chamber, two men express their outrage, exclaiming that someone dared to toss aside a vase gifted by their lord, and questioning his decision to marry into the imperial family, which Chloe understands is Ronheim's way of rejecting her. The men continue their tirade, certain that the people of Ronheim will resent this union, especially while having to watch the insane princess act dignified. They resolve to see what kind of noble face the princess shows today, while Chloe, overhearing them, accepts their despise but reaffirms her intention not to abandon this bond. Chloe, now in her wedding veil, approaches two heavily armored guards, standing before a grand set of doors. Bathed in a ray of light, she steels her resolve, telling herself that if she can just endure today, freedom will be within reach. A narration explains that the number of vassals allowed to walk with the couple reflects the emperor's favor toward that imperial. Chloe stands alone, her expression somber as she feels the weight of the court's judgment. She walks the long red carpet alone toward the emperor and Kavala seated on their thrones, the empty hall a clear sign of her lack of favor. A murmur spreads through the crowd as Chloe remembers her past life, where she was so anxious she didn't even notice the humiliation. Her gaze falls on a scowling Andrea, and she recalls hearing that Viscount Pelsis withdrew his support after her last engagement collapsed, explaining her brother's foul mood. Dismissing the forced marriage as irrelevant, Chloe steels herself, deciding to focus on surviving the ceremony and the impending arrival of Lord Rodrian. Addressing her father on the throne, she thinks how little she recognizes him, having last seen him during her past life's engagement. She bows deeply before the throne. The Emperor impatiently tells her to hurry along, his coldness making Chloe feel like he's treating her as a stranger. Kavala, the imperial consort, greets Chloe with a radiant smile, unable to hide her delight that her schemes are succeeding, while the audience watches the lunatic princess being wed to a barbarian. With a strained smile, Chloe thanks Her Highness, feeling countless sneers and hostile gazes cutting into her. Kavala patronizingly tells her to call her mother, and Chloe reluctantly complies, glad the Marquis isn't there to witness the spectacle. Clenching her gloved fist, Chloe steels herself to endure the moment alone, when a sudden shout announces the arrival of Lord Rodrian, startling her. She turns, looking down the aisle toward the entrance. The scene shifts to a glimpse of golden flowers and a man's dark hair. Callias, Lord Rodrian, bows his head slightly, his expression unreadable. The Knights of Ronheim enter the hall, led by Lord Rodrian. Chloe recognizes Lord Rodrian, the Marquis, as he stands confidently at the end of the aisle. As both stand at opposite ends of the red carpet, Chloe wonders why he is already coming, as it isn't his turn yet. Chloe appears in her elegant wedding dress, a soft expression on her face. Before the imperial throne, Lord Rodrian formally greets the royal family of Idelian. He turns to Chloe, declaring it an honor to serve someone as precious as her, leaving her momentarily speechless. Callias offers excessive praise while humbly apologizing for the small size of his retinue. Blushing, Chloe is flustered by his behavior, thinking he's acting utterly bewitched. The Emperor scowls, sarcastically commenting on the impressive retinue, and Chloe grows anxious. Fearing the Emperor will ruin everything, Chloe worries, while a hidden Kavala smirks with satisfaction. Kavala abruptly stands and loudly expresses her pleasure at Ronheim's favor toward their princess, startling Chloe. As Kavala hurries the engagement ceremony along, Chloe suspects she deliberately interrupted to keep things moving. Kavala beams with undisguised delight, her plan proceeding perfectly. At Kavala's prompting, Chloe publicly declares her consent to marry Marquis Rodrian. Teask. As the ceremony turns to the Marquis, a resentful nobleman scoffs, thinking how difficult it must be for him to accept this marriage. Kavala asks the Marquis to accept of his own will as he firmly embraces Chloe, who silently ponders the words. She acknowledges this is a marriage of convenience, and his gaze remains steady and unreadable. Chloe braces herself, resolving to endure this path for survival, even if she never earns his respect. In a breathtaking moment, Marquis Rodrian suddenly takes her hand, leaving her stunned. A look of pure, surprised joy illuminates Chloe's face. He holds her hand in a firm, reassuring grip. Surrounded by an aura of golden flowers, Callias offers her a disarmingly warm smile. Thud. He then drops to one knee before her, and a shocked Chloe wonders what he is doing. As her heart pounds with confusion, Chloe questions his unexpected behavior, while his men glower behind him. Watching from the side, Kavala notes with a sly smile that the Marquis is quite ardent. Kavala addresses the couple from the top of the stairs, officially concluding the ceremony. Clap, clap, clap. As the court applauds, Chloe breathes a sigh of relief that the ceremony is safely over, thanks to the Marquis' performance. A hand moves smoothly, reaching gently for her cheek. Callias softly caresses her face, observing that she seems uneasy. For a fleeting instant, an image of a younger, smiling man overlaps with the Marquis before her. The strange vision leaves Chloe looking down in quiet confusion. Amidst the applause, she reflects on the brief moment he resembled someone from her past. Gazing at the new ring on her finger, she feels as though he was silently encouraging her. While preparing a horse, servants gossip that the princess must have used black sorcery to charm the Marquis. Following the ceremony, a quiet moment focuses on Callias' hand. Callias looks out over the palace grounds in silent contemplation. He reflects on the unnatural aura he felt when he touched Chloe's cheek, noting that she seems completely unaware of it. A narration confirms his suspicion. He felt the presence clearly. While walking in the garden, Chloe notices a bracelet lying on the path and wonders who it belongs to. As she picks up the strange item, it's revealed to be a curse of death placed upon her. Nearby, a red-haired knight tells his companion he'll search a little longer for a lost item before leaving. Trembling with anger, the knight curses his bad luck for losing his precious flatus. He's startled when a voice calls him Sir Knight, wondering who could possibly be addressing him. He turns to find Princess Chloe, smiling at him, glad he hasn't left yet. Realizing she's mistaken him for someone else, Chloe asks if he isn't the prince. The knight panics, thinking he's made a mistake and must not cause trouble for his lord. Chloe holds out her hand, presenting the lost bracelet to him. A bright, innocent smile graces her face as she offers him the item. The knight is flabbergasted as Chloe hands him the item she calls a flatus. She explains that a flatus is a traditional Ronheim bracelet containing prayers for a loved one's safety and happiness. The knight is suspicious, wondering why the princess would bother returning a simple trinket. Chloe explains with a kind smile that she wanted to return it to its owner since a friend has a similar one. Her gentle demeanor completely baffles the knight, who can't reconcile it with the rumors of her madness. Chloe smiles brightly at the red-haired knight, assuring him that she wasn't bothered at all. The knight formally clasps his hands, expressing his hope that they will meet again. He takes the golden flatus bracelet back into his gloved hand. As the grand palace comes into view, Chloe dismisses a passing thought as absurd. The red-haired knight, now mounted on a white horse, gazes thoughtfully into the distance before departing. The scene transitions to a different, equally ornate wing of the palace. A maid frantically warns Chloe about the violent people of Ronheim, but Chloe inwardly notes how noisy the maid has been. As the maid demands to know if she's even listening, Chloe internally scoffs at how little the maid thinks of her. She reflects that, in comparison, the Ronheim knights were better for at least being openly cautious with her. In a warm memory, the red-haired knight smiles and expresses his sincere gratitude. Remembering his kindness, Chloe can't help but smile to herself. Her thoughts then turn back to the bracelet he lost, a flicker of suspicion crossing her face. She recalls a memory of a kind-faced young boy with dark hair. A tender memory surfaces of her and the boy, him promising that even the fiercest snowstorm eventually ends. A realization dawns on Chloe. The knight who returned the bracelet might actually be from Ronheim. Lost in thought, she silently contemplates this new connection. A narrator explains the palace grew busy with wedding preparations, hastened by the Marquis's urgent need to return to Ronheim. Looking out the window, Chloe sees the preparations as futile, certain the wedding will never happen as planned. She recalls her past life, where the emperor's displeasure postponed the ceremony, followed by a grave accident where he fell from his horse, leading Kavala to abandon all else to tend to him, and Chloe's wedding to be forgotten. Chloe realizes that Kavala, leaving her palace to care for the emperor, was the precise moment she had been waiting for. Remembering the hostility from the Marquis's subordinates, she knew she had to win their favor to survive in Ronheim. Her plan was to aid Ronheim's restoration by stealing Kavala's jewels and departing for the territory immediately. Unsure of the exact date of the emperor's fall, she simply waited and watched for days. A maid rushes in with news of the emperor's fall during a hunt, and with a jolt, Chloe realizes the time has come. She recalls that on this night, Kavala would stay at the emperor's bedside until dawn, leaving her own palace vulnerable. With the empress's palace unguarded, a thief would strike, and Chloe knows security will be doubled starting tomorrow. Tonight is her only chance to access Kavala's vault, which she's confident no other thief can open due to its special magical key. Only 3 people know of the key's existence. First, its current owner, Kavala. Second was Kavala's mother, from whom she inherited the secret of the vault and its key. The key is revealed to be a unique, multi-sided die, an object no one would ever suspect. A memory of Kavala hugging a young Chloe suggests why she is the third person to know the secret. Chloe realizes Kavala must have left the key on display so brazenly because of that shared past. Trembling with resolve, Chloe tells herself not to feel guilty for what she's about to do. With fierce determination, she declares she is only taking back what Kavala stole from her. The scene shifts to the Empress's palace, bathed in the quiet of the night. A cloaked Chloe moves through the grounds, relieved to find the guards are even more lax than she'd hoped. She assumes everyone followed Kavala and now just needs to find a way inside unseen. A sudden clatter from a nearby window startles her. Realizing someone is opening a window, she sees an opportunity to slip in through the one they leave ajar. However, as she approaches, she's shocked to see a woman with wavy red locks already inside, a hairstyle she recognizes. She instantly identifies the woman from a wanted poster as the notorious thief who targets Kavala's vault. Chloe recalls the poster's description perfectly matching the dark-skinned, red-haired thief before her. As the thief emerges from the palace, Chloe panics, realizing the guards will be alerted and headed this way soon. The thief frantically searches outside while Chloe watches, confirming her guess that the key wasn't in the vault. The thief looks around in frustration as Chloe weighs her options, knowing running means losing her chance to get the jewels. The red-haired thief smirks, deciding to proceed with a backup plan. As the thief considers revealing herself to grab a few jewels, Chloe hears approaching footsteps and decides being a suspect is better than losing the key. Suddenly, the red-haired thief sprints directly toward Chloe, who recoils in shock. Chloe squeezes her eyes shut and screams, telling the approaching thief to go away. Click. Her eyes snap open in confusion as she finds her wrists shackled in handcuffs, courtesy of the thief. The red-haired thief points triumphantly at a stunned Chloe, shouting that the escaped woman is here. Chloe's eyes widen in absolute shock and confusion at the sudden turn of events. Staring down at her shackled hands, she realizes with horror that the thief is trying to frame her. Armored guards rush onto the scene, shouting orders to catch her and not let her escape. Waving cheerfully, the red-haired thief tells the guards she found their quarry hiding in the bushes. Surrounded by guards, Chloe thinks the situation is ridiculous and is confident her identity as a princess will clear this up. Regretting her decision not to run, she worries that the guards might not recognize her. Standing tall, she announces herself as Princess Chloe Idelian, planning to feign a simple visit to Kavala once she's freed. A guard grabs her arm, infuriating her as he dares to address her so disrespectfully. She's utterly aghast when he calls her a butler, wondering how they could treat a princess with such scorn. Angrily, she declares that the palace guards can't even recognize a royal and demands they release her hand. As she's being led away, she glances toward a glass door, her threat trailing off. What in the reflection? She sees not her own face, but that of the shocked, red-haired thief. Her mind reels as she wonders why the reflection is showing her as the thief. Recalling the moment of the accusation, she questions if the thief cast some kind of spell on her. A glowing crest materializes as she realizes her captor was no ordinary thief. The red-haired thief smirks and waves a casual goodbye, making her escape. As a guard orders another to quietly deal with her, Chloe's eyes widen in alarm. Yes, with a sickening thud, she's struck from behind and knocked unconscious. She fights to stay awake, knowing she can't lose consciousness here. As darkness closes in, she registers a strange smell and wonders where she is. She awakens to the chilling sensation of a hard, cold floor beneath her. Could this be a bath? She's shocked to realize they've locked her in a bathroom instead of a prison. She stumbles while trying to stand and catches her reflection in a polished surface. Her heart sinks as she sees she still looks like the red-haired thief, her reflection framed by thorny roses. She examines her hands, wondering if the illusion is tied to the magical handcuffs. Recognizing the Empress's lavish bath, she questions why a fleeing thief would be locked in Kavala's private room. The strong, lingering scent of candles gives her a headache, and she can faintly smell blood. Her eyes land on a set of ornate knives, resting on a nearby counter. Despite the suspicious circumstances, she pushes herself to her feet, ready to assess the situation. She consoles herself that at least she's still inside Kavala's palace, so all is not lost. Realizing her true identity is safe, she forms a new plan. She can pin the entire incident on the real thief. Her resolve hardens as she focuses on her original goal: undo the spell, steal the treasures, and escape. She scans the room for tools, but sees only candles and a knife. She searches desperately, wondering if there is anything else useful. Her eyes fall upon a small bottle of oil. A spark of hope ignites in her eyes. Yes, that will work. Taking a breath, she pours the contents of the bottle over her chained wrists. The cuffs slip right off. She grimly notes that the thinness caused by her past suffering has finally proven useful. Now, free from her bonds, she takes a moment to gather herself. With the shackles and cuffs off, she confirms it's time to make her move. Noting the darkness outside, she knows she still has time before dawn. She moves toward a large ornate door, knowing she must hurry before Kavala returns. Peeking through the keyhole, she discovers the bath connects directly to Kavala's study. Her breath catches in her throat as she sees what's on the other side. The window in the study is sealed with a glowing blue magic circle, blocking any simple escape. Realizing the window is magically sealed, she concludes Kavala never expected an intruder and resolves to find another route. Apologizing silently to Kavala, she vows that a simple magical seal won't stop her. A memory of Kavala leading her maids gives her an idea. She'll use the secret passage. She approaches an ornate portrait on the wall, certain the entrance is hidden nearby. With soft click, the silver-haired girl finds the hidden mechanism in the wall, exclaiming that she's found it. She stands before the entrance to a secret passage, hidden within the castle walls. Looking down a long flight of stairs, she recalls that this passage was a secret passed down only to the Emperor and Empress. The silver-haired girl pauses at the threshold of the dark, hidden passage. She steels herself, Recognizing this as the secret passage to the imperial palace, known only to its rulers, the silver-haired girl's expression is filled with grim determination. She reflects on her knowledge of the palace's many escape routes, which allowed her to evade the maids and steal the key from Kavala's quarters. Grateful for her childhood memories, she clutches a small object, knowing that as a princess, she should not be aware of this passage. Standing in an opulent room, she acknowledges that her knowledge of this place is forbidden. Clutching the key, she thinks about the true reason she knows this secret. She reveals that her mother broke the sacred law by telling her about the passage. A memory surfaces of her mother, a kind woman with brown hair and green eyes. She believes her mother foresaw future danger and revealed the passage as a means to protect her. She remembers her mother's stern warning to never speak of this secret to anyone. Taking her first step, she begins her descent into the hidden stone corridor. Walking through the torchlit passage, she thinks back to her mother's sacrifice. She continues her journey through the cold, ancient stone hallway. Her face, marked by a small scratch, shows her unwavering resolve to see this through. She finally arrives before a grand, sealed door at the end of the passage. Remembering her mother's words, she approaches the door to place the key above it. She holds up the octagonal key, its symbols glowing with a faint blue light. As the key activates, a brilliant blue light floods the passage, surprising her. The door opens to reveal Kavala's treasure vault, leaving her momentarily stunned by the sight. Her eyes fall upon priceless adornments, once worn by the first queen of the ancient kingdom. She spots the very rings her own mother cherished the most. Overwhelmed by the sheer amount of priceless artifacts, she wonders how she will carry it all. With her small sack already full, she worries that she has barely managed to pack anything of value. Searching for another bag, her eyes land on a shabby-looking sack near a large chest. Puzzled by its presence, she decides the lucky find is perfect for carrying the rest of the treasure. Before filling the sack, she decides to check its contents and discovers a heavy, flat object inside. She pulls out a jeweled goblet, wondering if it could be a legendary Holy Grail. She inspects the ancient, scratched artifact, noting its incredible age. With a thud, she sets the goblet down, deciding its weight and unimpressive appearance make it not worth taking. Smiling, she prepares to leave, satisfied with the treasures she has managed to gather. A troubling thought strikes her. Kavala must not find any evidence of her intrusion. With a hardened expression, she makes a drastic decision to burn the entire vault to the ground. Standing before the roaring flames, she reasons the fire will hide what was taken, and she'll scatter some jewels to further confuse things. She knows Kavala's greedy subordinates will steal the scattered gems, making it even harder to identify the true thief. As she turns to leave, she finds herself unable to stop thinking about the old grail she left behind. Her expression is conflicted as she gazes into the inferno. Making a last-second choice, she reaches back into the fire to retrieve the goblet. Outside the castle, panicked voices shout that the Empress's vault is ablaze and must be extinguished immediately. As Chloe sits quietly, two maids gossip about the fire, wondering if the mysterious intruder caused it. One maid laments the terrible loss, hearing that nearly everything in the vault was ruined. The other maid whispers that she saw a suspicious person in the flames, and her friend reacts with shock. The maid recounts seeing someone greedily pocketing a jewel from the floor, prompting a relieved sigh from an eavesdropping Chloe. Chloe calmly sips her tea, her plan to create chaos and deflect suspicion having succeeded perfectly. She recalls how she cleverly hid the stolen treasures inside a teddy bear gifted by her mother. The jewels were stuffed inside the bear, which was then placed in a chest with a false bottom concealing gold coins. Chloe smiles confidently, knowing that after some time, not even Kavala will be able to trace the stolen items. Peeking from her hiding spot, Chloe reminds herself that her true identity as the thief is a secret. She recalls that only the city guards saw her face, but a memory of the red-haired thief makes her expression fall. A dreadful realization hits her. The real thief knows what she looks like. She panics, worrying that if the thief is caught and exposes her, her entire plan for revenge will be ruined. With a shaky hand, she picks up a teacup, trying to force herself to stay calm. Seated at a piano, Chloe plays a melody, reassuring herself that everything will be all right. She remembers from her past life that Kavala had spread wanted posters everywhere, but was never able to catch the elusive thief. This memory seems to calm her, and a small, determined look crosses her face. Setting her teacup down, she reaffirms her plan to head to Ronheim soon. As she stands by the window, a guard's shout from outside announces that the thief has been spotted. Elsewhere, the red-haired thief smirks as she flees, blaming Chloe for her predicament and vowing to make her pay. In a lavish room, a furious Kavala berates a blonde-haired man for failing to catch the thief. She demands to know how the thief knew about her secret magic key, a fact only the two of them were aware of. Pointing an accusing finger, she furiously concludes that he must have colluded with the thief to steal her treasure. The man kneels before her, asking his distraught sister if she truly doubts his loyalty. He gently takes her hand in his. Placing a hand over his heart, he looks at her with earnest eyes, pleading for her trust. He promises to retrieve the treasures and urges his sister to calm her anger. He calls out to his sister once more, his sincerity framed by an illusion of roses. Kavala relents slightly, agreeing to believe him one last time before asking about her most precious item, the chalice. Clenching his fist, he assures her the chalice was not stolen. Kavala presses him, asking how he can be so certain the thief didn't take it. He explains he disguised the ornate chalice by hiding it in an old sack, confident the thief would have overlooked it. Unimpressed, Kavala demands he bring the relic to her immediately, reminding him of her long struggle to awaken its power. As a vision of a goddess-like figure appears, Kavala thinks of her ultimate goal, to obtain the key through Chloe. Her brother points out the flaw in her plan, but she orders him to retrieve the chalice immediately, and he reluctantly agrees. Kavala declares that she doesn't care about the other jewels. Only the chalice matters. She smirks, thinking the jewels are worthless compared to the immense power she will gain from the chalice. Her brother warns that using the relic will reveal its existence and provoke Ronheim, but she brushes off his concern. Red, magical energy crackles ominously in Kavala's hand as she prepares her next move. She declares that once she masters this power, she will judge and destroy Ronheim for the crime of abandoning Chloe. Her brother realizes her true intention, to use the princess as a weapon against Ronheim. Kavala smiles, stating that since she granted Chloe's wish, the princess must now pay the price. Her brother submits, accepting that everything will happen according to her will, which she coldly affirms. Kavala then orders him to find the butler who caused the mess, vowing to tear the woman apart with her own hands. She asks if preparations are complete for the child being sent with Chloe, and he confirms the child will arrive on the day of departure. Kavala is pleased, confident this specially prepared child will serve her purpose well. The scene shifts as narration reveals Chloe's wedding was cancelled, and her departure for Ronheim is now imminent. An opulent mansion is shown under the bright sun, marking the new setting. Inside, Chloe paces back and forth anxiously. She worries that it's almost time to leave, yet Carl hasn't visited her once since their last meeting. Remembering his kind smile, she feels a pang of disappointment, wishing she could say goodbye before leaving. She briefly wonders if Carl is staying away because of the constant presence of maids preparing for the now-canceled wedding. Watching the maids from a distance, she laments the wasted effort and concludes that Carl is simply being cautious. Tapping her foot impatiently, she orders a maid to pack away a particular item. Chloe stands over her maids as they begin packing her belongings for the journey. The maids are seen folding expensive dresses and placing them into a large travel trunk. One maid protests, asking if Chloe is truly disregarding the special gifts sent by the Empress. As a beautiful pink gown is shown, Chloe dismisses the gifts as mere trappings, meant to display Kavala's hollow favor. Wishing to be alone, Chloe dismisses her maids, telling them to leave her until it's time to depart for Ronheim. The maids whisper that Chloe has become more willful as her departure nears, but one suggests letting her have time alone. With her maids gone, Chloe feels a sense of relief, glad to finally be by herself. Opening a window, she calls out, announcing that since she's alone, it's safe to come out. She wistfully hopes Carl will see her, remembering his impossible promise to follow her even to Ronheim. When a voice announces it's time to leave, her heart sinks, realizing she won't see Carl after all. With quiet resignation, she simply says she understands. She turns to go, knowing that any further delay will only arouse suspicion. Her eyes catch something unexpected on a nearby table, as she wonders if it's a note. She picks up the neatly folded note, certain it wasn't there a moment before. As she reads the letter, her eyes fill with tears. Clutching the note to her chest, she whispers Carl's name with deep emotion. She holds the precious letter close, a single tear of gratitude escaping. Thump, thump, thump. A maid calls out urgently for the princess. Startled by the sudden shouting, Chloe glances back toward the door. The maid's voice rings out, chastising her for keeping everyone waiting. Realizing the danger, she thinks that being discovered with such a note would cause trouble. She quickly places the note on a table, deciding it's safer to leave it behind. As she opens the door, she reassures herself that the maids won't know who wrote it. Just outside the palace grounds, Carl stands waiting. Now ready to leave, Chloe stands formally, with her maids lined up behind her. She musters a calm, composed smile, prepared for what lies ahead. Carl watches from a distance, a fond expression on his face. In Chloe's empty room, the maids gossip with relief that the Mad Princess is gone, only to discover the note she left. Reading the note's promise, "I'll follow you," they question if it's Chloe's handwriting, finding the message strange. One maid dismisses the note as part of the princess's delusion, shuddering at how creepy it is. The other wonders if Chloe inherited the late Empress's madness, just before a loud thump echoes from the doorway. Bam! A red-haired man in a formal uniform enters the room abruptly. The maids inform him that the princess has left, but he ignores them, searching for a box. He spots a small chest and identifies it as his target, while the maids watch in fear. One of the maids angrily demands to know what he's doing, touching the palace's belongings. The man scoffs, calling it funny to hear such words from servants who gossip about their own mistress. The maids gasp in shock at his accusation, and one mutters that he's a barbarian. With the box in hand, the red-haired man turns and leaves without another word. He reflects on the servant's cruel words, imagining how poorly Chloe must have been treated. He recalls Chloe asking him to fetch a precious box, noting she was nothing like the mad, rude person rumors described. A flashback shows Chloe's earnest and grateful expression when she made her request. Outside, the red-haired man sees Carl speaking with Chloe near her carriage. Approaching the pair, he hands the box to Carl, who praises him for a job well done. Chloe beams with a bright, happy smile. The man, a marquis, asks if they are ready to leave, privately thinking the princess seems pitiful as Chloe agrees. Chloe turns to the marquis, her expression questioning. He blushes slightly, thinking it should be fine to at least ask for a name. From behind Chloe, Carl watches with a smirk, playfully addressing her as my lady. Chloe responds with a genuinely joyful laugh. The grand carriage and its escorts depart from the palace, beginning their long journey. Watching from a high window, Kavala notes with satisfaction that Chloe is finally leaving. A smug smile crosses her face as she folds her arms, her plan proceeding perfectly. Elsewhere, a hand shatters a glass as a man angrily questions what his mother is thinking. A frustrated blonde man drinks heavily, lamenting that he thought she was finally breaking free from their mother's shadow. He shoots to his feet in a rage, furious that his mother sent her away to Marquis Rodrian. Viscount Pelsis complains to Kavala's brother that the princess refused him, but meekly agreed to marry the barbarian Marquis Rodrian. Seething with rage over a pile of gold coins, Pelsis laments that his commoner status and massive dowry were rejected in favor of a royal-born suitor. Viscount Pelsis grinds his teeth in silent fury. Pelsis desperately asks if they can do something while the princess is in the capital, but Kavala's brother scoffs at the idea of threatening a prince over money. Kavala's brother looks shocked and offended by the accusation. Stuttering a denial, he sips his wine and states his hands are tied, as his mother was the one who sent Chloe to Ronheim. A sinister smile appears as the brother muses that he would handsomely reward anyone who could kill the Marquis. He coldly states he'd be grateful for any outcome that ties him to the royal family, even if it means the princess is tainted by a barbarian. A dark vision reveals their original plan, to lock the mad princess away after the wedding, confident no one would ever look for her. With a look of grim determination, Viscount Pelsis vows to make the prince's wishes come true. The sun shines through lush green leaves, marking a shift in scene. A grand carriage, drawn by white horses, begins its journey along a paved road. Inside, a white-haired girl looks around her new surroundings with wide-eyed curiosity. A dark-haired man asks if she is looking for something, but she shyly denies it. Blushing, she explains this is her first time outside the palace, and everything feels new and exciting. The man is stunned, questioning if she truly never left, even for recovery, which she confirms with a quiet no. She looks down sadly, admitting she has lived like a prisoner her entire life. An awkward silence falls between them as he regards her with a somber expression. As he pulls out a scroll, she quickly insists he shouldn't mind her, brushing off her past. He unrolls a map, and she asks in surprise why he's suddenly showing it to her. Pointing to their location, he begins to explain their travel route. The map illustrates their path through farmlands and across a river. Their journey will lead them along the river to a large castle nestled in the hills. The girl's face lights up with a bright, joyful smile as she listens. She beams with pure happiness, her previous sadness forgotten. The dark-haired man watches her, a thoughtful look on his face. The story's title is displayed beneath a promotional character. Their carriage arrives at the entrance of a walled fortress city, identified as Vermain. Peeking out the window, she marvels at the city, Surprised it's not just filled with knights. Through her eyes, the bustling marketplace comes alive with vendors selling various goods as she notes how vibrant the city is. Her excitement fades as she notices the townspeople seem to be deliberately avoiding eye contact with them. The dark-haired man simply acknowledges her observation with a quiet, "Ah." He explains that the locals recognize them as northerners, whom they consider not worth their time, making her feel like a nuisance once again. He silently watches her crestfallen expression. Startled, she looks up as he suddenly begins to speak, telling her that leather water skins are useless in the north. He explains that because it's always snowing, there's no need to carry water, which makes her realize the logic. She then asks about the shoes, realizing with a start that he noticed her curiosity and decided to explain things for her. With a gentle smile, he explains that normal shoes get soaked in the snow, so northerners need special waterproof and insulated boots. She blushes, touched by his kind and thoughtful explanation. The dark-haired man looks at her with a warm and understanding expression. He then announces he needs to stop by a place, leaving her to wonder where. A friendly-looking shopkeeper with braided brown hair smiles warmly. Inside a shop, the man greets the keeper, Rhonda, while the girl examines the thick, fur-lined clothing of the north. Rhonda mentions she heard he was looking for women's clothing, as the girl marvels at how different the styles are from her home, a rental. Placing a hand on her shoulder, the man tells the shopkeeper he's looking for clothes for his wife, causing the girl to jump in surprise. She blushes deeply, flustered by the title, wife, though she admits to herself that it isn't technically wrong. The man turns to her, explaining that the northern weather is far more severe than in a rental. He warns her that her current attire is so unsuitable she wouldn't last a minute in the north. He kindly suggests she change into something more practical while they have the chance, regardless of her preference. The narration explains that a rental's mild weather makes winter clothing a matter of fashion, where nobles display rank with extravagant lace and accessories. Dressed in a warm, fur-lined hood, the dark-haired man blushes subtly against the falling snow. A narration explains that Southerners consider Northerners barbarians for their rugged clothing made from animal hides. Inside the shop, Chloe worries that her current attire isn't warm enough but feels guilty about making him spend more money. The Marquis's blue-haired aide worries that Chloe was offended by their suggestion to buy new clothes. To their surprise, Chloe turns with a genuine and radiant smile. The dark-haired man watches her with a gentle smile, while his nervous aide looks on. Relieved, the aide realizes Chloe isn't difficult like the rumors suggested after she politely thanks them. Chloe admits she is unfamiliar with northern attire and asks the shopkeeper for recommendations, who agrees to assist. The blue-haired aide pulls his master aside, angrily questioning his actions and addressing him as Callias. Callias, the Marquis, simply watches his aide with a calm, knowing expression. A flashback reveals the marriage was a scheme to locate a holy relic, a goal that is now nearly complete. Callias' aide suspects Chloe is a spy for Kavala, worried she or her servants will leak information about Ronheim. He concludes that they should send the princess back as soon as possible. The aide reasons they can't simply banish her. They must manipulate her into leaving on her own accord. The blue-haired aide looks on with concern, wondering what his master is thinking. He silently questions why Callias is looking at the princess with such a warm and caring gaze. Callias changes the subject, asking about the holy relic, and learns it is presumed safe since the princess was sent to them. Callias accepts the news while his aide expresses relief, though with some lingering doubt. The aide's thoughts drift to a hidden teddy bear as he wonders when they will be able to retrieve the relic. As she waits, Chloe turns suddenly, having noticed someone familiar. Her eyes widen in shock as she recognizes the person approaching. Chloe remembers the freckled, green-eyed woman, realizing she's the same person she met before, despite the change in hair color. In a flash of memory, Chloe identifies the woman as the thief she encountered in Kavala's treasury. Chloe angrily confronts the thief, demanding to know how she infiltrated their party dressed as a handmaiden. The thief smirks, denying she stole anything and questioning Chloe's accusation. Leaning closer, she playfully accuses the princess of being the real thief. The woman shocks Chloe by revealing she witnessed everything, including Chloe setting the fire, leaving the princess speechless. The thief explains she was framed for the incident, with an arrest warrant preventing her escape, as Chloe realizes her secret is known. She thanks Chloe for inadvertently creating a diversion that allowed her to escape by hiding in the procession. The thief calmly proposes a deal, leaving Chloe to listen with uncertainty. Explaining that soldiers are hunting for her just outside, the thief asks for safe passage with Chloe's group. Extending her hand, the thief suggests they become accomplices in their mutual escape, Chloe silently considers the offer, realizing the soldiers must be working for Kavala. With a firm handshake, they seal their new alliance. The thief smiles brightly, saying she looks forward to working with her new partner. The new handmaiden chattily observes that Chloe's escorts are northerners. Surprised, Chloe listens as the handmaiden boasts that she knows exactly what northern men like. While helping Chloe try on clothes, the handmaiden overwhelms her with enthusiastic compliments and suggestions. Chloe emerges from her fitting and apologizes for the wait, catching Callias's attention. Now dressed in a beautiful, fur-lined northern cloak, Chloe shyly asks if the new clothes suit her. Callias is left utterly speechless by her appearance. As Chloe nervously asks if he dislikes it, the aide observes that the Marquis is completely captivated. A deep blush spreads across Callias's face as he stares at her. Entranced, the handmaiden reassures a blushing Chloe, who thinks she's never seen the Marquis look so flustered. Composing himself, the blue-haired aide formally introduces himself as Viscount Brentian Crieff. Chloe smiles graciously, returning the pleasantries and placing herself in his care. Their carriage approaches a large, glowing teleportation circle set in a lush green clearing. Whoosh! A brilliant blue light envelops the carriage as the teleportation magic activates. Chloe marvels at the sight, reflecting that she was never allowed to see such wonders in her past life. A voice calls out to her, and she turns to answer. Startled, Chloe looks up at Callias as a bright light flashes around them, blushing from their proximity. Chloe nervously notes that this is her first time in a teleportation circle, as an off-screen voice warns her of potential dizziness. The teleportation circle activates in a brilliant flash of blue light, and Chloe cries out as it envelops them. Coming to her senses, Chloe is surprised to find herself looking up at Marquis Rodrian. She panics, wondering why she is suddenly lying with her head on the Marquis' lap. Callias calmly explains that it's common to doze off during teleportation, leaving a flustered Chloe feeling deeply embarrassed. As Callias offers a faint smile, Chloe silently begs her racing heart to calm down before he can hear it. Callias pulls aside a curtain, inviting her to look outside now that they have left the fortress. She gasps in awe at the vast, snow-covered mountains, amazed by a sight she has never seen before. Pressing her hands against the window like an excited child, Chloe marvels that everything is covered in white. Callias explains they are in Avene, the region with the least amount of snow, and warns her that other places are far worse. Shocked, Chloe can't imagine how there could possibly be even more snow than what she is seeing now. He explains with a smile that Ronheim's harsh weather has always been its greatest defense against invasion. When Callias offers to let her step outside, Chloe's face lights up as she eagerly accepts. Standing beside their grand carriage, Chloe and Callias take in the immense snowy landscape. Her feet make a soft crunch as she steps onto the fresh snow. Looking out over a snow-covered peak, she begins to process that this is her new home. Together, they stand on a precipice, overlooking the endless mountains where she will now live. She reflects on the harshness of the land, where the wind feels sharp and the air is hard to breathe. Staring out at the frozen vista, Chloe contemplates the difficult life ahead of her. With a tear rolling down her cheek, she makes a solemn vow to love this land, no matter what. Callias watches her silently, observing her emotional reaction. He gently places a comforting hand on her shoulder. Surprised by the tender gesture, Chloe looks up at him with tear-filled eyes. Callias gazes thoughtfully into the distance, a serious expression on his face. A soft smile appears on Chloe's face as she decides she was right to choose him. The two stand together in a quiet moment amidst the falling snow. Chloe shares a philosophy about choosing 5 happy memories to endure hard times, leaving Callias looking intrigued. He appears taken aback and slightly unnerved by her sudden, deep confession. She admits that before him, she had no happy memories worth keeping, recalling the moment they first met as children. Beaming with genuine joy, Chloe declares that she has just gained one of her 5 precious memories. As Chloe blushes, she silently admits she had thought he had forgotten about their past. Their moment in the snow ends. As Callias suggests, they return to the carriage. Arriving at a modest inn in Avene, a maid expresses outrage that a princess would stay in such a shabby place. Exhausted from the journey, Chloe watches a standoff between her maids, wishing she could just rest. Callias explains to Chloe that continuing now would mean camping in the mountains, as Ronheim is still far away. He concludes that it is safer to rest in Avene for the night and depart at dawn. When he asks if staying at an inn is acceptable due to their schedule, Chloe readily agrees. Chloe thinks about the tedious royal protocols she is avoiding by not officially announcing her arrival to the local lord. While Chloe had intended a quiet stay, one of her maids loudly decries the inn as a disgrace, challenging the decision. The maid argues that it is her duty to protect the naive princess from the indignity of staying at a common inn. Another maid counters that relations with Aveen are poor and a royal visit may not be welcome, making Chloe suspect they are spies from Kavala. Believing the argumentative maid is one of Kavala's spies, Chloe decides to avoid conflict and accept the situation. Resolved, Chloe steps out of the carriage to intervene. However, before she can speak, the argumentative maid interrupts her, insisting she has something important to say. Annoyed at being cut off, Chloe questions the maid's audacious behavior. The maid declares that she was specially ordered to help Chloe complete that mission. Demanding authority, the maid reveals her orders from Kavala, and Chloe realizes she's not the only spy. Deciding to hide her own plans, Chloe asks the reckless maid for her name, and the maid introduces herself as Vanessa. Vanessa internally reaffirms her true mission, to gain Marquis Rodarian's trust and uncover all his secrets. A dark-haired woman warns Chloe that if Vanessa remains uncooperative, Ronheim's people will treat her with hostility, but Chloe questions why she's deliberately provoking them. In a flashback, a regal, white-haired woman with blue eyes asks if her command is being taken lightly, warning that her plans must not be interfered with. Chloe intensely questions the dark-haired woman, asking if she is considering the princess's orders, leaving the woman stunned. The dark-haired woman wonders what's happening, recalling that she'd heard the princess was a paranoid, babbling idiot, the exact opposite of the person before her. With a cold look, Chloe threatens to report everything to the Empress if the Marquis of Rodarian fails his mission because of this incident. The woman quickly apologizes, promising to be more careful, as Chloe coolly observes her simple-mindedness and warns her against repeating her mistake. In the falling snow, Viscount Creef and 2 other men are told not to bother informing the Lord. As their carriage travels through a snowy, starlit sky, a voice states that this is what they agreed upon. Viscount Creef reacts with a quiet, uneasy acknowledgement. As Creef offers to lead Chloe and her companion inside, a brown-haired knight watches from the carriage, seething about the damned Idelian royal scum. The knight smirks, having uncovered the true purpose of the marriage proposal, and realizes he must warn Brentian about the overheard conspiracy immediately. Safely inside, someone remarks that they suspected as much, prompting a confused what from another person. The brown-haired knight angrily confronts Viscount Creef and a silver-haired man, demanding to know why they brought the princess there, knowing the truth. As the brown-haired knight fumes, the silver-haired man calmly states it was the Marquis's decision, causing the knight to curse his leader in frustration. The knight, Andrew, rants about why Prince Ronheim must be called a Marquis just to appease the Oriental bastards, but the silver-haired man orders him to stop. The silver-haired man is identified as Harvey Brago, the formidable knight commander of the Ronheim Knights. Harvey reminds Andrew that while their leader is a prince in Ronheim, being called king could be seen as rebellion by the Empire, prompting a mumbled apology. The 3 men wait in silence, Andrew looking down in shame after his outburst. Harvey asks Creef if Andrew isn't disciplined enough, but Creef says it's hard to catch him when most of the castle's members are related. Creef instructs Harvey to calm Andrew down so the princess doesn't find fault, and Harvey agrees. Grabbing a dark-haired attendant, Harvey orders her to keep a close watch on the princess while he is away. The attendant explains she must fetch her master, who is feeding the cats, and Harvey dismisses her to do so. As 2 maids assist her, one apologizes, and Chloe reflects that this is the first time she's been near them on the journey. Observing the maids' clumsy etiquette, Chloe realizes Kavala must have sent them personally, and wonders about her scheme, noticing the freckled handmaiden fiddling with a bottle. The freckled handmaiden steps forward, offering to light a fire for the cold princess, while a dark-haired woman beside her looks on, annoyed. The dark-haired woman sharply rebukes the handmaiden, questioning why she moved without being given an order. She sternly reminds the maids of their place, and as the freckled one submits, Chloe realizes this woman, Vanessa, is in charge. Vanessa announces she will have a meal served, but Chloe surprises her with a smile, declining to eat. Chloe kindly dismisses all the maids for the night, telling them to rest, which sends them into a flurry of relieved gratitude. As the freckled handmaiden cheerfully ushers the others out, a shocked Vanessa calls after them in protest. Vanessa apologizes for the maid's exhaustion-fueled rudeness, but Chloe calmly states that she was the one who permitted them to rest. Chloe gently tells Vanessa that she must be tired as well, and should also get some rest, to which Vanessa quietly agrees. Alone in her spacious new room, Chloe stands for a moment before turning toward the door. Chloe contemplates Kavala's motives for sending such clumsy maids, deciding she must investigate them closely to uncover the truth. Her thoughts are interrupted as the freckled handmaiden enters with a large wooden bucket, leaving Chloe to wonder what it is. The handmaiden brightly explains she brought warm water, claiming the innkeeper gave it to her immediately when she said the princess might freeze to death. While soaking her feet, Chloe remarks that the handmaiden always puts herself in danger for her, but the girl just smiles, saying they're on the same side. The handmaiden jokes it would be a problem if Chloe died before she could escape, and Chloe thinks that despite her harsh words, there's no malice in them. Watching the crackling fire, Chloe asks the handmaiden when she plans to run away and if her family is worried about her. The handmaiden lies down on the bed, philosophically stating that home is wherever you lay your head, prompting Chloe to ask if she's a gypsy. With a charming wink, the handmaiden insists on being called a romantic wanderer, though Chloe privately thinks that's just a fancy word for gypsy. Suddenly, Chloe is struck by a memory of a guard shouting at a gypsy who dared to speak the princess's name. Chloe's mind races as she wonders if the police knew the handmaiden's, Ramia's, true identity and what she was really doing. Realizing Ramia may not have been stealing, Chloe confronts her, asking why a wanderer was in the Empress's palace, but Ramia claims she was kidnapped. Ramia explains her bizarre situation. After having a few drinks, she woke up shackled and locked inside a crate. As Chloe processes the shocking story, Ramia speculates she was meant to be a sacrifice, just as a voice calls from outside the door. Ramia's face lights up at the prospect of food, while Chloe remains silent, lost in thought. As the person outside asks them to come out, Chloe internally questions the purpose of kidnapping someone in a crate within Kavala's own palace. A man's face flashes in Chloe's memory, and with a jolt of clarity, her eyes widen as she finally remembers who he is. Chloe has a flashback of a man with a distinctive mustache, identified as the one who handled all the dirty work for Viscount Pelsis. Her memory also includes a stern-looking bald man. Overwhelmed with anxiety, Chloe wonders why that person is here, and frantically questions if he is connected to Kavala or Andrea. Her mind races as she identifies the man as Viscount Felsis's lackey, questioning his sudden appearance. Still panicked, she tries to understand if Kavala or Andrea is involved in this new development. Her thoughts are interrupted as Lamia enters with a meal, remarking that it's still warm. Slap! Chloe suddenly smacks the food away, yelling at a stunned Lamia not to eat it. Panicked, Chloe tells the startled Lamia that she doesn't know what might be in the food or what Viscount Felsis's goal is. Clutching her chest, Chloe declares that Felsis is clearly up to something dangerous. Realizing the immediate threat, Chloe grabs Lamia and insists she must warn the Marquis right away. Chloe urgently asks Lamia if she can use her face-changing magic to stay behind and act as her double. Creak. The bedroom door opens quietly. Now wearing a dark cloak, Chloe walks down the hall, reasoning that she can avoid suspicion from Kavala's knights by claiming she's simply looking for the Marquis. She knows they'll be wary, but figures they can't object to a wife searching for her husband. Despite the plan, Chloe feels a pang of guilt for using her transactional relationship this way, just as a brown-haired knight spots her. The knight approaches, addressing her as "my lady." A light blush appears on the knight's face. Chloe recognizes him as the kind knight who brought her the teddy bear and feels a glimmer of hope that he'll listen. The knight, Alex, asks about her attire, but Chloe quickly asks for the Marquis's location, leaving him confused. She urgently explains there's a suspicious person in the inn and the Marquis could be in danger, but Alex is skeptical. Alex denies her claim, insisting no one but maids has passed him. Shocked, Chloe asks if there's only one staircase. He confirms it's the only one, but adds that the Imperial Knights upstairs would have spotted anyone else, leaving Chloe flustered. Whisper. Leaning close, Chloe confesses to Alex that she doesn't trust the people sent from the palace. She clenches her cloak, acknowledging how hard her story is to believe without proof. Determined not to repeat her past mistakes by doing nothing, she grips her fist tightly, knowing her words lack credibility. Chloe looks at him with sincere desperation, saying she is truly worried for the Marquis' safety and must warn him. Looking conflicted, Alex listens as she begs him to tell her where the Marquis could be. Alex relents and suggests speaking to the commander, since the Marquis isn't back, just as the silver-haired Knight Commander appears behind them. The man, identified as Knight Commander Hawick Blago, steps forward and asks Chloe if she saw someone suspicious. Chloe explains her belief that they've been followed from the capital and that the Marquis is in danger. Hawick calmly reassures her, stating that she needn't worry about the Marquis and that he will return shortly. He explains the Marquis simply went to check on the cats, an answer that leaves Chloe completely baffled. As Chloe and the other knights stand confused, Hawick clarifies that the cats must have been hungry and were waiting by the transport circle. Chloe wonders where cats could possibly be in a vast, snowy field as the scene shifts to the Marquis on a white horse in a blizzard. In the snowy wilderness, the Marquis, Callias, looks ahead with grim determination. Callias identifies 3 or 4 trackers, deducing they were sent to bring him in but lacked proper research, as 2 assassins watch him from afar. Blood splatters through the air as one of the assassins is cut down. Standing over the fallen assassins, Callias muses they were fools to attack in an area where snowcats could be heard and decides to let one escape with the news. Callias maintains his cold, resolute expression amidst the falling snow. His hand rests near the hilt of his weapon, ready for more threats. A large, white snowcat with piercing blue eyes snatches a fish from one of the downed assassins. Surrounded by his snowcats, Callias scolds them for tearing at human flesh, then commands them to pursue the remaining man. As a shimmering, ethereal cat appears before him, a voice calls out to the Marquis. Callias spots Viscount Kreef on a horse in the distance and calls out to him. Kreef asks if the bodies are the work of snow ghosts, but Callias clarifies they were assassins who unfortunately interrupted the cat's mealtime. Callias notes the assassins were well prepared for the blizzard and vows to discover who sent them, as his cats are already chasing the survivor. Riding through the snow, Callias worries the assassins were also targeting the princess, but Kreef confirms he ordered strong protection, though Howick is having issues with the Imperial Knights. Kreef explains that the Imperial Knights are blocking Howick from reaching the princess's floor, causing Callias to realize there's a serious flaw in her security. A chilling thought emerges if the person behind the assassins doesn't want Chloe captured alive. As the 2 men race back toward the inn, the terrible possibility hangs in the air. Chloe could be in grave danger. As Callias and Viscount Kreef arrive, Callias worries that he might be too late. At the top of the stairs, Callias confronts a nervous Alex, questioning if his knights don't trust them. Alex insists only maids went upstairs, but Commander Howick reports they've searched the rooms and found no one, just as another voice demands to know what the commotion is. Looking down at the scene, Callias tells a concerned Kreef that he understands what's happening. Howick explains to Callias that they were investigating a suspicious person Chloe saw, but are being blocked by the Imperial Knights, adding that she's been moved to another room for safety. Kreef receives information from the innkeeper and thanks him for his good work. Kreef rushes to the others, urgently reporting that the innkeeper just realized one of the inn's uniforms is missing, suggesting Chloe's intruder used it as a disguise. Furious, Callias orders a full search of the inn and its surroundings, while another knight grumbles to Alex that the Marquis returned sooner than expected. As the knights spring into action, Chloe appears in the hallway, startled by the commotion. She runs to Callias with relief, exclaiming that he's safe, prompting him to ask if she was worried about him. He admits he was worried after hearing she went out alone, but after asking if she was followed, he dismisses it as nothing to worry about. From another part of the room, Callias' voice asks Chloe if she's alright, having heard she saw someone suspicious. Chloe reassures him, explaining she was just surprised to see Viscount Felsis's lackey. As she explains the Viscount must be plotting something, Callias notices with concern that she's trembling. Wondering why she fears a former fiancé she barely knows, he asks if Viscount Felsis did something to her, causing her to flinch. He leans closer, his expression intense as he presses the question, asking if the Viscount frightened her. Wincing in pain from his tight grip, Chloe apologizes, but he immediately realizes his mistake. She quickly insists it's nothing. She gives the excuse that she was just worried something might jeopardize their marriage, and Callias quietly promises to take care of everything. He looks down at her with a gentle, reassuring expression. Chloe looks up, visibly moved and slightly flustered by his sincere promise. Suddenly, a distant shout makes Chloe gasp as she recognizes the voice. Both she and Callias turn in alarm as he yells out Lamia's name. Rushing into the other room, they find maids in a panic over a blood-soaked Lamia, but she quickly clarifies that the blood isn't hers. Lamia grins while holding a bloody knife, explaining that when a suspicious person approached, she simply grabbed the weapon and gave him a new air hole. She nonchalantly adds that the intruder was so shocked he immediately fled through the window, leaving Chloe speechless. Kneeling beside her, a worried Chloe looks at Lamia, who cheekily asks if the princess was worried about her. Chloe admits she was, since Lamia was acting on her behalf, and Callias observes them, thinking Chloe is more affectionate than he'd realized. Knight Commander Howick appears, informing his lord that they have successfully captured the intruder who fled. In a remote, snow-covered building, the captured intruder remains silent, refusing to reveal who sent him. Callias stands over the bound man, commenting on his impressive loyalty as the intruder glares back defiantly. A faint clinking sound is heard as a transition occurs. Surrounded by his snowcats, Callias calmly recounts how assassins ambushed him during a blizzard, unfortunately interrupting his cat's feeding time. He then reveals the trophy his cats brought back after chasing down the final assassin, a golden ring. Holding the ring before the captive, he asks if it's something he recognizes, adding it will lead them to his master. The man's eyes widen in shock. The man recognizes the Viscount's signet ring and furiously demands to know what Callias did to him. Thwack! A swift blow silences the captive. With the interrogation over, Callias declares there's no need for more questions as Havoc turns to leave. Standing outside in the cold, Callias confirms it was Viscount Felsis' scheme and wonders if he's still obsessed with marrying Chloe. Chloe's sudden arrival startles him, and he asks how she found him out here. She explains she needed to know if the intruder confessed, and Callias confirms he did the moment he was shown the Viscount's ring. Alarmed, Chloe asks if he met with the Viscount himself. Callias clarifies that he didn't, but his subordinates, the Snowcats, did, and that the Viscount confessed and accepted his punishment. He tells her the Viscount supposedly had a change of heart and promised never to approach her again, an explanation Chloe finds highly suspicious. Chloe thinks to herself that she doesn't buy the story of the Viscount meekly backing down after sending an assassin to her bedroom. Callias watches her with a quiet, unreadable expression. Chloe reasons that the Marquis has no reason to lie to her, and reflects that she seems to only ever receive his help. She admits to a strange feeling of emptiness, surprised that the Viscount would give up on her so easily. A smile of relief crosses her face as she feels the chains that bound her finally break, but she knows that traps from the Imperial Palace still lie in wait everywhere. With newfound determination, Chloe looks ahead, knowing that if she is to move forward, an off-screen voice suddenly calls out, asking her what she means. Howick looks on as Alex blushes, questioned about his loyalty to the Imperial family, while an off-screen Chloe thinks their only mission was to protect her. Facing the Imperial Knights, Chloe angrily accuses them of failing their one mission and questions if this is the loyalty they speak of. The Knights sputter in protest, but the Empress thinks to herself that they are merely pawns in Cabala's scheme to station troops in Ronheim. She muses that since Ronheim's terrain is difficult to invade, planting knights there in advance would enable future military operations. The Empress concludes her thought, resolving that she must leave these knights behind while she has the opportunity. Chloe presses her case, demanding to know where the knights were when an intruder snuck into her room and calling their protective intentions into question. Turning to a silver-haired man, Chloe asks for his assessment of the Imperial Knight's performance as he was on guard with them. He admits that Her Highness is correct, explaining that the knights abandoned their posts when she was in danger, leaving the two guards speechless. Chloe declares that she's starting to believe their purpose is to obstruct her protection, not provide it. The knights desperately defend themselves, stating they were ordered by the Empress to protect her, prompting Chloe to turn and call for a maid named Vanessa. Chloe asks Vanessa if she can truly travel with knights who lack ability and conviction, taking the maid's hesitant silence as an agreement. Standing before the disgraced knights, Chloe announces that she can no longer entrust her safety to those who abandon their duty. She turns to the silver-haired man, addressing him directly as Sir Howard. She announces her decision to entrust her escort to the Knights of Ronheim from now on. With a confident smile, she asks Sir Howard if her proposal is acceptable. Sir Howard and Howick are both visibly surprised by her bold and sudden declaration. With a bow of respect, Sir Howard accepts the duty, telling her to leave everything to them. The scene shifts to the Oriental Imperial Palace, where red magical energy swirls within the Empress's quarters. The Empress, relaxing in a glowing red bath, wonders why she is being contacted, as Chloe shouldn't have reached Ronheim yet. A magical message informs her of the failed attack in Avine and the dismissal of the Imperial Knights, ruining her plan to station troops in Ronheim. She asks a man about a holy relic, and he reports that it seems to have been stolen by a butler along with other jewels. Furious, the Empress orders him to scour the black markets and auction houses, certain the thief will try to sell the goods quickly. She sternly warns the man, Denef, not to disappoint her again, and to bring back the relic before it falls into another's hands. With a bowed head, Denef quietly agrees, calling her sister. The next morning, at the inn in Avine, Chloe stands in the snow, anxiously searching for the Marquis. Her face lights up as she spots him speaking with another knight, exclaiming that she's found him. Watching him smile, she reflects that he seems to have a kind and considerate side. This observation leads her to think that the Marquis and a person named Cal strongly resemble each other. As she stares, thinking their faces look more alike the longer she looks, the Marquis notices and calls out to her. He playfully asks if he interests her that much, causing a flustered Chloe to deny staring for any particular reason. She blurts out the excuse that he just looks a lot like a friend of hers, Marquis. Embarrassed, she quickly adds that this resemblance is the only reason she keeps staring. He asks if she is referring to the precious friend she mentioned to him before. Smiling warmly, he asks to hear more about this friend, and Chloe agrees to tell him later. Chloe privately wonders about his curiosity regarding Cal, but changes the subject, asking where the carriage is for their departure. The Marquis explains they'll be riding horses from now on, causing Chloe to panic and admit she can't ride. He gently offers a solution, telling her that she can ride with him. His expression is kind as he waits for her response. He extends a gloved hand, formally offering his help. Chloe looks at his outstretched hand, her expression a mixture of surprise and bashfulness. A stylistic panel showcases the intense gazes of several key characters. Several days pass as the group travels on horseback through a harsh, snowy landscape. Riding with Chloe held securely in front of him, the Marquis remarks that it's hard to believe people live beyond such rugged mountains. Chloe looks ahead at the vast, snowy wilderness with a gentle, curious expression. The history of Ronheim is recounted, noting it was a minor kingdom perpetually covered in snow. The land was home to nomads, and legends of hidden treasures and herbs of immortality were the true reason the Empire sought to claim it. Gazing upon the epic mountain range, Chloe feels as though she has stepped into a realm of legend. The Marquis's voice startles her, and she turns toward him, asking what he wants. He asks if she is weary from the journey, and offers to entertain her with some light conversation. He suggests talking about one of her friends, and her brilliant blue eye widens in surprise. The Marquis notes that Chloe has been talking about that sort a lot lately, causing her to wonder why he's bringing up her friend. Turning to her, the Marquis asks if he seemed interested, and Chloe inwardly admits that he did. He asks if her friend is a man, and as Chloe pictures a younger boy, she confirms that he is. Looking up at the Marquis, Chloe says her friend is among the finest men she has ever seen. She adds that the Marquis reminds her very much of him. Flustered, Chloe worries that the Marquis will misunderstand her among the finest comment. The Marquis smiles, saying he'd love to see the face of someone who so closely resembles him. He then laughs, asking if he played along well, while a flustered Chloe buries her face in her hands. Chloe thinks that his smile makes him look even more like her friend, though her friend never teased her like he does. She fondly recalls how her friend wholeheartedly supported her sudden marriage, and the Marquis listens intently. He admits he had wondered if her friend was someone he knew, but dismissed the idea since she was still corresponding with him. Chloe smiles, assuring him there's no way her friend knows him, and that he seemed completely unaware of the Marquis. The Marquis thinks to himself that Chloe must be talking about him, then asks what her friend said about their marriage. She smiles sweetly, recalling that her friend was, of course, surprised by the sudden news. Remembering the moment, she adds with a joyful expression that he gave her his blessing. The Marquis seems disappointed and asks if that was all, while Chloe confusedly asks what else there would be. He gazes at her with a gentle, slightly wistful expression. A blushing Chloe thinks to herself that she has never seen such a look on Callias's face before. She clarifies that she doesn't have any friends who have spoken to her about Ronheim. The Marquis smiles softly and accepts her answer. Noticing Chloe is unwell, he suggests they rest due to altitude sickness. She apologizes for the trouble. He then points out that someone has come to greet them, and a weary Chloe looks ahead. In the distance, a figure in a parka waves and calls out to them, leading them forward with a small, dark animal. A boy named Bihar of the Utar tribe waves excitedly, exclaiming that they have returned. Chloe asks if it's a child, and the Marquis explains he belongs to the nomadic Utar tribe of Ronheim. As he runs toward them, Bihar announces that he always volunteers so he can be the first to greet the king. The boy stands proudly with his hands on his hips, holding a leash. Bihar wishes for them to bring prosperity to Ronheim together, and Chloe is startled to hear him call them the king and queen. The Marquis explains that Lhasa, the tribe's seer, must have foreseen their arrival tonight, which Chloe acknowledges. As Bihar remarks on Chloe's beauty, the Marquis explains that the nomads still call him king because they refuse to accept Arental's rule. The Marquis sternly calls out to Bihar, scolding him for calling him king in front of the princess of Arental. Shocked, Bihar stammers that the princess has become their queen, suddenly realizing his words were insolent. The Marquis presses the point, demanding to know why Bihar has not yet apologized to the princess. Bihar quickly kneels and begs for forgiveness, while Chloe feels it's wrong for a child to apologize, but knows she cannot intervene. Thinking of the trouble rumors could cause with Kabbalah, Chloe simply tells the boy to be mindful in the future. She then kindly asks about the adorable little black lamb he has with him, making the boy wonder if she's forgiven him. Bihar nervously explains that Lady Lhasa sent the lamb to act as a guide for them. The Marquis explains that ahead lies a dangerous path of icy crevices, known as the Rift of Death. The narration clarifies that the Uttar's mountain goats can sense the hidden crevasses, and Lhasa sent one as a gift to ensure their safety. Marquis finds it strange that Lhasa sent a young goat instead of a seasoned one, but Chloe smiles, sure it will lead them to rest. Guided by Bihar and the lamb, the group travels through the breathtaking, sunlit mountains. Chloe looks back over her shoulder, her expression full of wonder. The stunning, vibrant scenery surpasses all words for beauty. Marquis tells her they have arrived at a glacial lake whose colors shift throughout the day, piquing Chloe's curiosity. As the water around her glows a brilliant turquoise, she learns its color can change from deep blue to jade with the sun. Leaning against the Marquis, Chloe tells him that every day has felt new and fresh since she met him. With a gentle, blushing smile, she tells him to think nothing of her comment. They ride onward toward a settlement of yurts nestled in the snowy landscape. The villagers spot them, announcing that the king and his bride have arrived, just as Lady Rasa foretold. The Marquis greets a woman named Rasa, who welcomes them, confirming that she and her people awaited their arrival. The woman named Rasa declares with serene confidence that the gods themselves have sent her to them. Rasa addresses the Marquis as "my king," revealing that the object he has long sought, a glowing jeweled chalice, is now close at hand, much to his surprise. The decorative interlude marks a brief pause in the narrative. Addressing him as "O King," Rasa informs the Marquis that the precious thing he has long sought has now come very near to him. The Marquis turns to Haywick, privately wondering if she means the holy relic, though he believes it's with Kabbalah. The Marquis asks Chloe to go rest, explaining he needs to speak with Lhasa for a moment, and Chloe agrees. Alone with Lhasa in the snow, the Marquis gives her permission to speak freely. The Marquis presses Lhasa for details, asking if her cryptic message means the holy relic is nearby. Lhasa reveals the god told her two things: his precious thing is near, and he must be protective of those around him. Lhasa gives a chilling prophecy that an enemy's sword is at his throat, urging him to be full of doubt as a vision shows a shadowy figure behind Chloe. A troubled Marquis complains to Lhasa that her prophecies are always frustratingly vague. Lhasa reassures him that he is the subject of the prophecy, and that all will be revealed if he keeps his faith. Lhasa invites him back to a banquet prepared by the chief, and the Marquis expresses his gratitude for her help. Placing a hand on his shoulder, Lhasa affirms their loyalty, telling him he was born to be their king no matter what. The Marquis looks out at the snowy expanse, sadly reflecting that king is a title he doesn't deserve after failing to protect anything. Inside a warm yurt, Chloe and the knights sit by a fire while a woman offers one of them a drink. Chloe worries about the Marquis' troubled expression as someone asks if she is enjoying her drink. Haywick explains to Chloe that her drink is goat's milk with salt, a substance more precious than gold to the nomads. As Chloe takes a sip of the precious drink, Haywick looks on with sudden, startled realization. Delighted, Chloe smiles warmly and thanks her host for serving her such a precious meal. Chloe asks for another cup, prompting a thoughtful look from the nearby Lhasa. Lhasa suddenly stumbles with a cry of pain, prompting Haywick to ask what's wrong. Lhasa chastises Haywick for thinking too much, which causes him to chase the wrong answers despite his wisdom. Lhasa advises Haywick to think less and simply follow his master, but he retorts that she is the one always nagging him. Lhasa's sudden, intense stare unnerves Chloe, who wonders if she has made some kind of mistake. Leaning close, Lhasa whispers a shocking revelation to Chloe. She is a being who has received a second chance from the god. Chloe panics internally, realizing Lhasa knows about her regression and fearing that someone might overhear the dangerous secret. From the Marquis' perspective, Chloe seems to glow with a divine light as she sits among the musicians. Playing dumb, Chloe tells Lhasa she doesn't understand what she's talking about. Lhasa firmly grasps Chloe's hands, explaining that the god has a purpose they wish to achieve through her. Holding her hands tightly, Lhasa instructs Chloe to believe in herself and not to rely on illusions. A confused Chloe questions the meaning of illusions while looking down at their joined hands. Lhasa warns that Chloe must recognize a great danger on her own, leaving Chloe feeling lost and confused. As Chloe's mind races with confusion, Lhasa's voice cuts through with a stark warning. "You are dying." Gripping Chloe's shoulders, Lhasa urgently warns her not to let death claim her again, confirming Chloe's fears about her future. Lhasa steps back, promising to show Chloe a clue later if she remembers her words, and Chloe quietly agrees. As Lhasa walks away, the Marquis and a silent Chloe watch her go. Marquis asks Chloe what Lhasa said to her, but she smiles and evades the question. Chloe lies, claiming Lhasa simply gave her a blessing, while privately recalling the seer's ominous words. Lhasa moves through the yurt, handing out food to the other guests gathered by the fire. As Lhasa passes him, the Marquis looks up in confusion, questioning who she is. Lhasa tells the Marquis there is no bread for him, stopping him before he can offer his share to someone else. With a serene smile, Lhasa simply states that everyone has their own designated share. Her expression hardens as she delivers a pointed warning: do not covet bread that is not your share. The Marquis gracefully accepts her words, saying it's fine and that the other food is enough for him. Lhasa turns from the Marquis and approaches Chloe with her basket of bread. Lhasa offers a gentle smile to Chloe, a silent and knowing look passing between the two of them. That night, a quiet stillness falls over the snow-covered yurts of the Uttar settlement. Unable to sleep, Chloe decides she must find Lhasa and understand the meaning of her words before they depart. While walking through the snow toward Lhasa's yurt, Chloe stops in shock at the sight of the Marquis lying on the ground. Chloe arrives at a room looking for someone named Lhasa, explaining she has something to ask. She's startled to find Marquis Callias behind her, who asks what she's doing there. Callias informs her that Lhasa has likely gone to pray and asks what she wanted to say. Chloe reveals that before their meal, Lhasa left her with a mysterious prophecy. Callias notes that her waiting until this late hour suggests her business is secret, and Chloe cautiously agrees. Deciding to confide in him, Chloe says she can tell him the secret and asks him to wait for Lhasa with her. Callias kindly agrees, suggesting they wait inside out of the cold, and Chloe accepts. Noting the still glowing embers in the brazier, Callias surmises that Lhasa will return soon. Sitting by the fire, Chloe reflects on being betrayed by family yet finding herself able to trust the Marquis. She addresses Callias, who watches her with a gentle expression. Chloe takes a leap of faith, asking if he knew Kavala sent her as a spy, and admitting she wants to truly trust him. She holds her breath, awaiting his answer to her direct question. Callias admits he knew and deliberately manipulated events to make it seem like he had feelings for her. He explains he predicted the Empress would send a spy via their marriage, leaving Chloe to ponder his motives. Chloe sits in silence, processing his startling confession. She asks if he can still believe she isn't on Kavala's side, while internally panicking over how to prove it without revealing her past life, but he simply replies, "I believe in you." His immediate and unwavering trust leaves Chloe utterly speechless. Stunned, she asks if he truly believes in her. Callias offers her a gentle, reassuring smile. Chloe tests his conviction, asking what he would do if she were deceiving him. He replies with certainty that someone intending deception could never look at him with her sincere eyes. Callias recalls that her bold first letter piqued his curiosity, prompting him to attend the ball. He remembers her at the ball, appearing strong and defiant, but with an unmistakable desperation in her eyes that moved him. He tells her that as he learned more, he saw an admirable person pushing forward against all odds. He concludes his heartfelt speech by declaring that the person he has seen is who she truly is. Overcome with emotion, Chloe recalls a happy memory of her childhood self, a stark contrast to her tearful present. A genuine, relieved smile finally breaks through her tears. When Callias notes she says thank you too often, Chloe explains that everything he's done for her is worthy of gratitude. Seizing the moment, Callias asks if he can request a favor in return, surprising Chloe. He smiles, admitting that being called Marquis by his own wife feels far too formal. He makes his request, for her to call him by his name. Blushing but happy, Chloe readily agrees to his request. She thinks to herself that compared to all Callias has done, his simple request is an easy one to grant. Callias smiles, pleased, and says it would be an honor, addressing her as Chloe. He then warns her that his maids are also watching her under orders, and that Kavala has her eyes on her. Callias confidently states that Kavala cannot touch him until she gets what she desires from him. Chloe knows Kavala wants Callias' life, recalling his murder in her past, and wonders why he speaks of a different desire, while he silently asks for her forgiveness. Callias confesses he allowed his knights to suspect her, but Chloe assures him it's natural for his people to dislike her. He blames himself, calling it his failure as a leader for not being able to explain everything to his subordinates. Chloe understands that he too has secrets he cannot share, just as she cannot reveal her regression, and accepts this isn't an issue of trust. She offers him a smile of understanding, and he thanks her for it. As it's late, Callias suggests they should return and offers her his hand. A blushing Chloe accepts his hand. Holding her hand, she reflects on the unfamiliar warmth, a new feeling in her second life, as they stand together in the snow. Looking up at the night sky, Callias asks Chloe if she likes the stars. Awestruck by the brilliant starry sky, Chloe exclaims that Ronheim is truly magnificent. She tells a surprised Callias that, despite his self-doubt, she believes he is already a fine king. Chloe's reasoning is simple. He loves his country more than anything. She smiles, explaining that his deep love for his nation is evident in his every word and action. As he processes her calling him king, she explains that no other word could possibly fit him better. With a backdrop of ornate, icy patterns, the Marquis holds Chloe's hands, looking down at her with a serious gaze. The Marquis explains his goal is to help her find her homeland. Chloe clenches her fists with determination, vowing to succeed even if it means using everything she has. Blushing slightly, she thinks to herself that she can still feel a warmth burning inside her. Callias approaches, calling her name, and a surprised Chloe turns to greet him. He informs her that Lhasa is unwell, so they won't be able to meet her for now, which Chloe accepts. Chloe worries that she'll be too dull to understand the prophecy later, but Callias firmly reassures her that she is not. He smiles, comforting her by saying she will meet Lhasa again when she needs guidance, so she shouldn't be afraid. As two Utah tribespeople approach, the woman addresses Chloe as bride, startling her. The woman offers Chloe a small handmade necklace as a gift, which she accepts with a grateful smile. Wearing her new gift, Chloe beams and declares that she loves it and will treasure it always. Riding away on a white horse with the Marquis, Chloe waves a final goodbye to the cheering Utah villagers. Chloe reflects that her life has taken a new path ever since she resolved to change her fate. With a gentle and determined smile, Chloe looks toward her future, hopeful for what lies ahead. Several days later, they arrive at a grand castle in a snowy landscape, and Callias announces they have reached Ronheim Lord's Castle. Chloe looks up at the imposing fortress, her breath catching in the cold air. A man named Mines Veleno, the chief steward of Ronheim, greets them at the gate, expressing his relief at their safe return. Standing with Chloe, the Marquis thanks Mines for guarding the castle during his absence. The Marquis instructs Mines to gather the servants to meet his new wife, and the steward complies. Standing before the assembled staff, the Marquis formally introduces his wife, Chloe Rodrian. The servants whisper resentfully about the Princess of Arental setting foot in Ronheim, but Chloe steels herself, knowing she has endured worse. Chloe puts on a bright smile, introduces herself, and politely asks for their guidance, refusing to be shaken by their hostility. As Chloe walks away, a stern-looking, older woman watches her with an unreadable expression before turning away with a decisive tap of her foot. A low murmur fills the hall as the servants continue to gossip behind their hands about the new arrivals. Chloe notes with a wry smile that the staff didn't even bother to greet her, resolving that changing their gazes is now her most important task. The Marquis asks Mines where the headmaid is, but Chloe notes that none of the servants present seem to fit the role. Leaning in, Mines whispers to the Marquis that the headmaid did not come out to greet them as she should have. Dismissing the steward's concern, the Marquis orders him to bring a woman named Granada, though Mines hesitates. A voice declares that won't be necessary, and the Marquis turns with a knowing smile as a surprised Mines looks on. Ronheim Castle's headmaid, Granada Veleno, is formally introduced as she stands with a stern and dignified posture. Granada greets Chloe with formal respect, introducing herself and inviting Chloe to call her by her first name. With a sudden clunk, Granada reveals she has a prosthetic leg, explaining the butler hid her away to avoid offending the princess. She apologizes for being late, explaining she had to break down the door, while a distraught Mines begs her to stop. Granada declares she will be serving Chloe and pointedly asks if her crippled body is displeasing, challenging the notion that Arental people find it offensive. Chloe feels intimidated and overwhelmed by Granada's intense, unwavering gaze. Aware that everyone is waiting for her response, Chloe feels the pressure of the silent, watching servants. Taking a quiet, steadying breath, Chloe prepares to give her answer. Chloe looks Granada in the eyes and states firmly that whatever customs exist in Arental, she is not like that. With renewed confidence, Chloe believes that if she approaches them with sincerity, they will eventually understand her. Granada listens to Chloe's response with a completely neutral, unreadable expression. The headmaid informs Chloe that the marital bedroom isn't prepared yet, and she will be guided to a temporary room instead. Callias leans in to reassure Chloe that Granada is a kind person despite her stern demeanor, and Chloe decides to trust his word, though she remains wary. They wish each other a good night's rest before parting ways. Callias watches thoughtfully as Granada leads Chloe and her attendants away down the castle hall. The moment Chloe is out of sight, Mines and the other servants rush to Callias, joyfully calling out to their prince. Relieved by his safe return, the staff quickly began questioning him about his sudden and shocking marriage. The Marquis smiles knowingly, acknowledging that they must have many questions about his marriage. He deflects their questions for now, instead ordering that the knights who traveled with him to a rental be given a vacation to rest. As one maid thanks him, another woman rushes forward to embrace him, expressing her relief and how much she missed him. A maid in a dark uniform rushes towards two men in military attire, calling out to Brother Carl and asking if everything was all right at home. The brown-haired man greets the maid, Lavich, who expresses her great relief that her other brother, Andrew, has returned unharmed. Andrew asks about someone named Helena, and Lavich happily reports that her health has improved and she's been eagerly awaiting his return. With a gentle smile, Andrew thanks Lavich for the news and apologizes for interrupting her conversation with her brother. A red-haired man in a similar uniform watches the reunion with a look of mild irritation. The red-haired man approaches Andrew, who is holding a large chest, and asks scornfully if he's still carrying the box for the princess from a rental. Andrew defends Chloe as their lord's wife, who deserves respect, but the red-haired man scoffs until a man with long purple hair interrupts their argument. The purple-haired man, Lord Brentian, approaches the two and sternly asks what is in the box. The red-haired man explains the box belongs to my lady, then scoffs at the title, speculating that she must be a spy from a rental. Lord Brentian says enough, placing a gloved hand on the chest to silence the other man's complaints. A sudden, bright, clanging sound erupts from the chest as it glows with a purple light. The three men look down in shock, startled by the strange sound coming from within the chest. Wondering what Chloe is hiding, they realize the noise is unlike the sound of ordinary jewelry. Back in Chloe's chambers, Granada explains that she will personally attend to Chloe today, while the other ladies in waiting learn the castle layout. Granada suggests Chloe should bathe first, after her long journey, and Chloe agrees that it sounds like a good idea. An awkward silence hangs in the air between the stone-faced Granada and a quiet Chloe. Chloe looks at Granada with slight confusion, quietly confirming the headmaid's intention to attend to her. Chloe nervously admits that she has never had to bathe by herself before. Granada assures Chloe that service is her duty, so Chloe thanks her and asks for help just this once, promising to try alone next time. Chloe carefully adds that if it's not customary in Ronheim for maids to assist with bathing, she is willing to try it alone. Granada internally questions Chloe's motives, wondering if she's being polite to a disabled person, or if she's unwilling to be seen by a Ronheim native. The head maid recalls a letter from Brentian warning that the princess is a dangerous spy who must be watched with extreme caution. While Granada brushes her long white hair, Chloe wonders why the head maid is personally performing such tasks. Granada explains the other maids stayed late out of joy for their master's return and are now asleep, prompting Chloe to ask if they all commute. The head maid confirms most staff commute, with only herself, the butler, and a few others residing at the castle. Granada elaborates that Ronheim is always short on staff because its people prefer providing for themselves through hunting rather than service. Surprised, Chloe reflects on the difference from a rental, where every household has resident maids. She recalls the scarcity of jobs in her homeland, which forced people to obey even unreasonable orders for fear of unemployment. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, Chloe smiles and sincerely thanks Granada, asking for her continued guidance. Granada seems momentarily taken aback by the sincere request, but agrees. A knock at the door startles Chloe, and Granada calmly announces she will go see who it is. At the door, Lord Brentian informs Granada that he has business with the princess. Brentian explains he's brought something of Chloe's as the red-haired baron appears with her chest, which she internally recognizes as her revenge funds. Chloe happily thanks the baron for not forgetting her chest and asks him to bring it inside. The baron apologizes, admitting he accidentally dropped the box, and offers to replace it if she'll hand over the contents, but Chloe politely refuses. Both Brentian and the baron look on with suspicion, the latter still expressing concern for the items inside. A sudden realization hits Chloe as she looks on in horror, thinking, oh no. Brentian's cold, suspicious gaze unnerves Chloe, who worries they suspect what's hidden in the chest. The two men continue to stare intently at the chest, their expressions filled with doubt. Panicked, Chloe realizes she's made a mistake. Brentian's piercing stare remains fixed on her, his suspicion growing. Chloe mentally reviews the chest's contents, treasures, and a teddy bear for Ronheim's reconstruction, and considers just showing them. She hesitates, feeling the weight of the men's suspicious gazes. Deciding it would look like she was showing off, Chloe changes her mind, just as the baron clears his throat and accepts her decision. Granada closes her eyes, a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips. Brentian narrows his eyes but ultimately backs down, asking forgiveness before withdrawing for the night. Breathing a sigh of relief, Chloe thanks Sir Alex and the Baron, glad the tense confrontation is over. Granada informs a surprised Chloe that she will be stepping out for a moment, and Chloe agrees. Outside, Granada confronts the two men, questioning Brentian's uncharacteristic behavior, and he reminds her that Chloe is the woman their master chose to bring home. Granada sternly tells Brentian that he should at least maintain basic courtesy for the dignity of their master. Brentian disagrees, telling Granada she's mistaken and asking her to just call him by his name as a strange energy crackles. Lord Brentian looks on, with a troubled and slightly sweaty expression. Brentian explains his suspicion, telling Granada he heard the clashing of metal from the chest, a sound not made by simple trinkets. Defending Chloe, Brentian asks Granada if she didn't see the princess's hands, which have clearly never held a weapon, and insists no one in Ronheim would be fooled by her. Placing a hand on his shoulder, Granada gently chides Brentian, telling him he thinks too much and misses what's truly important. Brentian recalls that a woman named Lassa said the same thing to him once before. Frustrated, Brentian wonders why everyone says he's overthinking, clenching his fist as he remembers cradling someone who was murdered, vowing to never forget the killer. His thoughts darken as he reaffirms his hatred, declaring the imperial family of Atelian their sworn enemy. Brentian trembles, tormented by the memory as he thinks to himself that he could never forget. Granada shares her own pain, explaining that her prosthetic leg is a constant reminder of that day, and that everyone feels their own wound is the most painful. She looks at Brentian with a steady, knowing gaze. Granada firmly dismisses both men, telling them to go back as she watches them leave with a resolute look. Alone in her room, Chloe clutches her teddy bear, worrying about where to hide her treasure and fretting that the Baron has made Granada suspicious of her. Startled by Granada's return, Chloe listens as the headmaid gives her permission to ask any questions she might have. Chloe hesitates, thinking it's only natural for them to be suspicious and considering apologizing on the Baron's behalf instead of questioning them. Before Chloe can speak, Granada informs her that she has already reprimanded the Baron for his disrespect, and it won't happen again. Granada explains that Ronheim lost countless people to Arental's army, and some still carry wounds that cause them to act rudely. She tells Chloe that as the Lady of Ronheim, she must not forgive such rudeness, leaving Chloe stunned by her unexpected words of support. Chloe decides to ask her question, and Granada listens, waiting for her to speak about the chest. Granada bluntly asks if Chloe hid weapons in the chest, and Chloe realizes that was the source of their suspicion. With a bittersweet smile, Chloe denies the accusation and offers to show Granada the contents herself to prove her honesty. As a click sounds, Chloe places her hand on the chest to open it. She reveals the treasure and a teddy bear, thinking to herself that a small lie about her mother's ornaments should be fine. Chloe internally justifies her secrecy, vowing to reveal the truth about taking the treasures without permission when the time is right. Seeing the contents, Granada promises Chloe that from now on, she will ensure no one touches what she treasures. As Granada prepares to leave, Chloe asks if the Marquis will be returning late. Granada informs Chloe that the master will be away for several days touring the lands, and that she should sleep without waiting for him. Chloe stands alone in the quiet, spacious room after Granada has left for the night. She reflects on the fact that she won't see Callias for several days. Clutching the fabric of her nightgown, Chloe admits to herself that the thought makes her feel a little lonely. Suddenly, two small red dots begin to glow brightly on her wrist. Startled and confused, Chloe looks down at her arm, wondering what she just saw. Clutching her chest, she thinks that she definitely saw something red flicker. Looking out the window at the snowy night, Chloe dismisses the vision, wondering if it was just a trick of her tired eyes. Elsewhere in the castle, a voice asks the master what brings him to his room. Callias stands in Mainz's room, apologizing for the late hour but explaining he has a favor to ask. He instructs a surprised Mainz to find him a sorcerer. Callias stresses that the search must be done discreetly, making Mainz realize his master no longer trusts his own knights. Mainz worries, wondering when this change occurred and what suspicions are weighing so heavily on his master. Callias stands silently for a moment, lost in thought. He remarks that he heard Mainz met Lassa, acknowledging that she is a good prophet. Callias specifies that he needs a sorcerer who is an expert in curses, leaving a shocked Mainz to question him. Panicked, Mainz asks if Callias has been cursed, recalling the gossip that he was forced into the marriage by threats. After Mainz worries it was the Empress Kabbalah, Callias calmly reassures him that he is not the one who is afflicted. A confused Mainz asks who cast the curse and upon whom. Callias orders him to find a sorcerer to solve the mystery, but warns him not to ask questions or jump to conclusions. With a serious expression, Callias gives one final command: do it as fast as you can. The scene shifts to a serene, snowy morning at Ronheim Castle. The next day, Chloe, now in a green and brown dress, walks with Granada through a sunlit castle hall. Chloe reflects that her current life is easy, especially when compared to the difficult journey she endured to reach the castle. She allows herself a gentle, peaceful smile, feeling a sense of calm in her new surroundings. Watching Granada, Chloe laments Callias' absence, wishing he were there to answer her many questions. Granada interrupts her thoughts with good news, announcing that the master will be returning within 3 days. Blushing with anticipation, Chloe clutches her shawl and hopes that time will pass quickly until his return. At breakfast, a brown-haired maid introduces herself to Chloe and Granada as Latina, the head chef. As she is seated, Chloe feels a wave of gratitude, touched that Callias made arrangements for her even while he was away. After Chloe offers her thanks, Granada clears her throat and introduces the potato cake as a staple food in Ronheim. Granada gently chides the chef, telling Latina to let the lady eat her meal in peace. Latina quickly apologizes, stepping back to allow Chloe to begin her breakfast. After taking a spoonful, Chloe compliments the food, saying all the dishes are wonderful. Dabbing her mouth with a napkin, she soon announces that she has had enough to eat. Latina notes how much food remains, prompting Chloe to suggest they share it with the other servants. The chef is visibly surprised by the suggestion, questioning why Chloe would give away food she has already eaten from. Chloe internally concedes that Latina's point isn't entirely wrong. She realizes that offering people food that has already been eaten from is improper and even sinful. Composing herself with a smile, she declares the meal satisfying before turning her attention to Granada. Chloe cheerfully informs the head maid that she will need new clothes made to wear in Ronheim. Granada agrees to the request, while another maid watches them with a downcast expression. A knock at the door sounds as Granada announces she has brought the merchant Chloe requested. A merchant wearing a simple green cloak enters the room and removes his hat respectfully. As Chloe praises Granada's efficiency, one of the maids whispers to another, questioning the merchant's shabby appearance. The merchant casually sets his bag of wares on the couch, startling the maid seated beside him. One of the maids scoffs at the clothes, questioning if this is what passes for fine. The merchant proudly displays a blue dress, boasting that its kuna leather is remarkably soft and light. As Granada admires the dress's beautiful embroidery, she suggests that Chloe should try it on. After Chloe remains silent, Granada takes charge, informing the merchant that she will pay in 2 days and will send for him then. Later, a maid confronts Granada, asking if they are truly buying all the clothes the princess desires, and calling it an excessive luxury. Latina agrees, complaining that the meal used rare ingredients while the castle's finances are strained, but Granada sternly corrects her to address Chloe properly. Granada reminds them that while she and Mines used to manage the household, things are different now. She firmly declares they have no right to oppose the lady's wishes, silencing a maid who tries to argue. The green-eyed maid falls silent, looking conflicted by Granada's unwavering command. Meanwhile, Chloe stands alone by a window, unaware of the staff's concerns and lost in thought. Granada maintains a stern and resolved expression as she addresses her dissenting staff. Chloe reassures herself, certain that Granada would have immediately spoken up if her spending were a genuine issue. The green-eyed maid approaches, and Chloe confronts her directly about the gossip regarding extravagance. The maid shrugs dismissively and asks bluntly just how poor Marquise Rodrian actually is. The brazen question sparks a sudden and troubling realization in Chloe's mind. She recalls seeing servants using lanterns instead of magical lights, and begins to suspect Ronheim's situation is far more dire than she knew. Resolved to help, Chloe decides to pay for the clothes herself, using the valuable jewels she brought from the Empress's vault. She presents a stunning jeweled ring to Granada, leaving the head maid utterly speechless. Chloe asks if the ring is sufficient payment, and she's pleased when Granada confirms there isn't even a jeweler in Ronheim to appraise it. Granada stares down at the valuable ring in her palm, her expression unreadable as she contemplates the gesture. Chloe watches Granada anxiously, waiting for her reaction. Granada suddenly bows deeply, apologizing for her mismanagement, but Chloe insists it's not her fault, and that she's still learning the castle's ways. Seizing the moment, Chloe makes a formal request that the servants be permitted to eat what is left over from her meals. She is taken aback by an unexpected reaction to her simple request. Granada's tone is serious as she questions Chloe's use of the word leftovers. She explains that for the servants, eating the same food that was prepared for and served at their lady's table is considered a great privilege. Chloe covers her mouth in horror, finally understanding that Ronheim's financial situation is far worse than she could have ever imagined. Granada humbly admits her oversight, acknowledging the cultural differences between Ronheim and Arental. She promises Chloe that she will advise her on everything from now on, holding nothing back. Chloe reflects on the people and customs of Ronheim, realizing these are things she will soon come to love. With a gentle smile, she embraces her new identity, declaring that she too is now a person of Ronheim. Granada warmly affirms Chloe's place in their land. For the next 3 days, Chloe immerses herself in learning about her new home from Granada. As she learns more, Chloe's affection for Ronheim deepens and grows stronger. After a lesson, Granada concludes their session for the day, telling Chloe she has worked hard. Chloe smiles, filled with a sense of peace and belonging in her new life.